This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Oh, look at that. I have got a head of wildebeest, and this wildebeest, they're just all under the shade. At the moment, it is very, very hot here in the Juma, the western side of the Kruger National Park. The temperature is about 38 degrees. A very, very good afternoon, and welcome to the beginning of the afternoon safari. I am Sydney Pumuran Mikosi. I am with Craig, who is my camera operator, and we are going to try by all means to get you see a lot of interesting animals here. My plan this afternoon is quite very easy. I'll be looking for the old Duke. I will be looking for Tingana. I will be heading to where the Tingana has got a kill earlier yesterday, and we also saw it this morning. I will be heading there after this wildebeest. So the wildebeest, they prefer to go under shade when it's too hot because they gather quite a lot of food early in the mornings as they are part of the ruminants. The ruminants are those animals which go out for feeding purposes and gather food when it's too hot like this. They sit down and then eat nicely. They chew some cud. They take back food to the mouth and eat again. So the wildebeest here, they are not alone. I can see their very best friend, the zebras. They are also somewhere here, not very far away from where they are. It's just that they are not at the same spot at the moment, but the gap is less than 40 meters. Wildebeest and zebras, they've got a very interesting relationship. These two, they depend on each other in order to watch out for the predators. Wildebeest, they prefer to use the sense of smell in order to see the predator, whereas zebras has got a good eyesight. And wildebeest don't have a good eyesight, whereas zebras also don't have good sense of smell. And zebras prefers the short grass. Mostly, they prefers the long grass. Mostly, you will see the zebras walking in front with the wildebeest at the back eating the shorter grass cutted by the zebras in front. So zebras are not ruminants. Unfortunately, when zebras are hungry, they are hungry. You can see they've got those big stomachs and they're not chewing anything. You can see their mouths are closed, all of them. But if you look at the wildebeest, their mouth, they are chewing. So wildebeest, unfortunately, they are fortunate enough that they can take back what they have eaten. So now let's go to the Maasai Mara, where David is also having some zebras.
Hello everybody, and a very good afternoon to everyone, and welcome to our sunset drive all the way from the Mara Triangle in Kenya. Sydney earlier was talking about zebras, and I thought I'm going to show you 1, 2, 3 many wildebeest, 1, 2, 3 many. But before we deal with the fauna, I want us first today for once to deal with flora and show you one of the most solid trees in the Mara Triangle, and that is a fig tree. It's very popular with many animals. I'm talking about mammals. Elephants will come enjoy the shade. Cats will come lay down it. Birds will come eat the fig fruit. It's one tree that's very popular. The same zebras you see walking past it there will also come and enjoy the shade of the same tree. Same case to wildebeest, but at the moment there's nobody close to them because it has cooled off, not as warm, 15 degrees Celsius, 80 degrees Fahrenheit. So now all these mammals can afford to move around because it's not as warm. And to all of you is Jumbo from myself, and my name is always David, and with me today as usual Manu. Manu have stuck with me for the last couple of days, and I think we make a very good team. Manu, do you agree? Completely. Manu says completely. I'll be showing you later. There's something I've been chewing for the last few days, and I'll be talking about it later. Remember, all right, thank you, Em. And this is a very interactive safari. And your questions, any comments you may have, please send it over as usual, #SafariLive. And you can keep following us on the YouTube chat stream. Your questions always keeps us on toes, That's a different tree there. That's called a magic guava tree, and that's not a fig tree. Migration is still on in Kenya and mostly in the Mara Triangle. So we're not surprised to see 1, 2, 3 many zebras, 1, 2, 3 many wildebeest. By the time all these animals live here, the grass you see will be very short. This is the beauty of the Mara Triangle. Open spaces. Comparing to Juma in South Africa, you can see very big open plains. The Mara Triangle apparently neighbors another national park in a country south of Kenya called Tanzania, and that national park is called Serengeti. And Serengeti translates to endless plains. So my only visual pollution from where I am now is that mountain you see there, or that escarpment there, and that escarpment is called Olololo. So when I said me and Manu are in the Mara Triangle, I've always liked to remind the people what Mara Triangle means. It is one side of a triangle is that escarpment you just saw there, that's called the Olololo. Anybody who saw the movie Out of Africa, it featured very prominently there. And then the other side of the triangle is the boundary between Kenya and Tanzania, which is left of that escarpment, and then the other arm of the triangle is the Mara River, where all these wildebeest, most of them, will try and cross from one side to the other. So when you say Mara Triangle, that's exactly what you're saying. It's time to move, and sometimes they'll go one way. After about an hour, they might go the reverse, or the same direction they came from. So migration mainly covers wildebeest and zebras. But once in a while also, we'll see other animals tagging along, like elands, or topis, or the small antelopes called Thompson gazelles. Well, I'm not alone again. It was me as Cindy, but there's another gentleman who'd like also to say hello to all of you, all the way in South Africa.
Indeed, there is, David. I'm very happy to say hello to everybody. I'm back from a leave. It's been an epic one, and it's always good to get back to work, especially when there's a carcass that's dangling in a tree, because that means one thing and one thing only, and that's a leopard, which is always a good way to start. Now, my name is Tristan. On camera, I have got Sebastian, which is wonderful to have, because Seb has been also on leave, and so both of us arrived back today. We drove in together, which was very nice. And we had a very welcome back, I suppose, didn't we, Seb? So we drove in, and Hosanna was actually lying right where we are now. Now, he isn't here at the moment, so we have this kind of carcass that's dangling in the tree, and you'll see there's quite a few stingless bees that are flying around our face, and I'm quite used to them, actually, because in the Congo they were everywhere. But the carcass is up in the tree. There's not that much left of it, and there's no sign of Hosanna at the moment. And I'm pretty sure the reason why there's no sign of him is because, one, is there's not that much shade around, unfortunately, and it is a swelteringly hot day. It's about 38 degrees Celsius or 100 Fahrenheit, so it is very warm in the sun, and that means that there's really not too much of place for him to be able to lie down and actually kind of relax. So I am pretty sure that he has moved off and has found himself a nice shady spot. Where that is, we'll have to kind of have a little look. But we can see that he's been lying all over the road during the course of the morning. So as the shade moved, so he moved as well. You can see that's where his body print is, where he was lying about and his paws were stretched out, and he kind of rolled around there and then got up and moved. And he's kind of moved all the way along the road and has moved across, by the looks of things, across the road. So I have a pretty good sort of knowledge that he's at the tent. That's where I think he's going to be. So we're going to try and worm our way towards the tent shortly and try and see if we can actually find him there. The thing is, though, is that he will come back to this carcass by the sort of, I would imagine, around sunset, as it starts to get a little bit cooler. So it's going to be much better for him to be able to be in that tree and actually start to kind of feed off that carcass. There really isn't that much left, and so I'm pretty sure that he'll be finished with it by the end of this evening, and probably tomorrow morning will still be somewhere close by, maybe at one of the water points where he'll go and kind of quench his thirst. So I'm sure he's not too far away, so we're going to try and just do a little bit of a drive around and see. I want to just double check if his tracks go in that direction. I see that where he dragged this carcass from was kind of towards the tent. Now, I believe a lot of you are welcoming Seb and myself back. It's very nice to be back, isn't it, Sebastian? Yeah. There we go. Sebastian and I were saying it's not the worst way to get back to work in the Sabi Sands and actually have a bit of time to spend out here. So both of us are very happy to be here. We both had very, very good leaves. Seb spent some time at home with his family, got to spend a lot of time with his daughter, which is always good. Said he went into Kruger for a night, he went to a concert, all kinds of things with Seb, so you had a busy leave. And well, I had quite an epic adventure, which I'm sure we'll get into as the days go on. Now, Hosana could be anywhere here. There's a lot of like a drainage line section where there's lots of trees where you can get into and lie down, but I know that he likes lying in the shade of the tent. It's the best shade that there is because it's completely unbroken in terms of, you know, it's not like a tree where there's a few little hot spots that will come through the leaves and those kind of things. The shade has got at the tent is a complete solid piece, and so much easier for him to be able to lie there. So I'm pretty sure that's where he's ended up. I don't see any sign of him under any of the trees close by here, which we would have spotted by now, so I'm thinking that's where he's gone. Wouldn't surprise me at all, actually. Like I say, we know he's spent quite some time in that particular area. Come on, Hosana, where are you? It's good to be looking for leopards again. As much as the rainforest of sort of West Central Africa is great, a leopard is looking for leopards in the savannas of South Africa is probably the best thing. Oh, there he is. He's at the tent. So we've been able to find him now, which is exactly where we thought he'd be. So, Byron, there are quite a few. Now, we're going to try and just reposition ourselves here because Hosana's lying on the other side of the tent, but if we go around the tent, it will be better. But how many leopards there are here at Juma? Well, it's difficult to know exactly how many there are at any one time, given that, you know, there is quite a fluid movement between a lot of them. The males and females obviously move around quite a bit, and there are a few faces that we don't really know that sometimes show up and show signs of being in the area. And so, you know, sometimes we've got to kind of, you know, take that into account. But the leopards that we see mostly, Hosana, who's the young male that we're going to see now. Then you've got Tingana, who's his dad and the big dominant male in this area. Then we've got, you're right there for now, Seb. So he's right in the shade of the tent as we thought he would be, because it's the perfect spot to go and lie down. So there he is there. Now it's not a problem because there's really nobody around that's using the tent at the moment, so he's welcome to stay there at this stage. So we have Hosana, Tingana, we have Hukamuri, who's another big male leopard that does come in from time to time and has been here in the last week, which has been quite interesting. Apparently he chased Hosana, which is very interesting, and I'm glad Hosana hasn't run away and that he's decided to carry on staying in this particular area. But you can see it's the perfect spot if you're a hot cat. You can even see his kill from here. It's absolutely wonderful if you are Hosana and you found yourself in this position. And then if we look at females, we have Shadulu that comes in from the west every now and then. We have Kuchava down in the south. We have Tandi and Kalamba. We have this unknown female that's been mating with Tingana, who I would imagine doesn't spend much time here, but because of being an estrus and following a male, she might have just come in and maybe has been hanging around a little bit more than we actually sort of know. And that's really about it in terms of the leopards that we see regularly. So it's quite a few, and there's always a possibility of a lot more that are on the fringes. So we know that Quarantine, Subuyi, Tiani, many different other leopards that are right on the fringes of Juma that could also one day into these areas as well. So I would say in total, if we really kind of pushed it, we could probably see close to 16, 17, maybe even 18 leopards on Juma if we counted each individual. But for the most part, at the moment, we're seeing kind of 4 that are regulars, which is Hosana, Tandi, Tlalamba, and Tingana. Those are kind of most seen leopards that we see a lot of the time. He is one hot cat, and I can sympathize with him a little bit because it is very, very warm today. And like I was saying, you can see the shade that he's in is absolutely perfect. It is completely covering him, and so he can lie down in that area and really kind of get as much shade as possible. There's also a little breeze that will funnel through there, so you'll be able to stay as cool as possible as he goes about it. Hello, Hosana. Nice to see you again. Strange, you wouldn't think that you'd miss a wild animal, but over the course of the last 3 weeks, even though I've been seeing a lot of amazing things and been to incredible places, you do kind of miss these cats, and it's so good to be back with him and to see that he's still hanging around and that he is still being successful in catching various meals. And I believe he's had a really good run of things in the last 2 weeks. He's been catching quite a lot, so it's nice to see that he's back. Are you going to just find a better spot to lie down, boy? All right, well, Seb, I think if we go forward a little bit, we're going to actually have a better view completely, and we won't have all of that stuff in the way. Right, now while I kind of reposition ourselves and try and get into a better spot, let's send you back across to David in the Mara and see if he's still with the zebras.
Well, good luck, boys, in South Africa. Hopefully you'll be able to find Tingana or maybe Hosanna today. We've got different antelopes here. I was talking earlier when we see the migration, which covers mainly wildebeest and zebras. Occasionally we'll see other antelopes following them, and I mentioned toppies, and luckily, or speak of the devil, we got toppies there, and they got 2 calves, 3, and to me they all look like the same age, maybe 4. So we would say most of these toppies here are females with their young ones. Now I want you to notice one important thing here. If you look at the calves or the babies of these toppies, they're very different in coloration comparing them to their mothers. And this is the only time to nurse, time to suckle. You must be a hungry one. Definitely the other one doesn't belong to her. They'll always get one, in general, one calf at a time. Not sure I have seen or heard of a twin, but it's always one calf at a time. And you can see in the background the wildebeest I was talking about. So we'll see huge masses of wildebeest walking together with zebras, but then these toppies here will always sometimes tag along with them, and some other big antelopes called elands, and the small little guys called Thompson gazelle. This calf here must be very hungry. I'm not sure the mother is very, oops, don't use your horns against your own calf. It's not right. You see very different coloration from the mother. Calendar, we got about 5-6 main antelopes of the Mara, and depending on what you describe an antelope to be, buffaloes, for example, as much as they're big, huge herbivores, we have always described them also as antelopes. Then we got the Grant's gazelle, 2. We got the Thompson gazelles, 3. We got elands, 4. We got toppies, 5. And we also got the hartebeest, or what we call the Congoni. If you also want to put the waterbacks in there, then you may have 7. Lots of antelopes you have in the Mara. So the toppies that you see on the foreground there, Kalenda, they are very similar to what you'd call the sesebe. Sesebe are like cousins of the toppies, but we do not have sesebes here. You'll see them south of Kenya and more so in South Africa. The color is a little bit different. The sesebes look a little bit darker. And apart from difference in color, the behavior, gestation period, lifespan, and all that is basically the same. So I would say the toppies have like a dropping or a breeding season. If we're in August, toppies here, females must have conceived sometimes late in December or early in January to have these babies around this time. So late December or early January is when this, I would guess these toppies might have conceived to have these calves around this time. Well, I have always heard of some cats that will also toppy, and let's find out an example of that cat now.
Look at that. This is a spectacular sighting. You can see I have got Tingana right in the middle of the old dry riverbed. So he's right at the bottom and he's not even lying down flat. You can see that he's very active. He's not very far away from his kill. Not eating, is relaxed, and I can see that he is now breathing very fast. Maybe he's thinking about to go there and have something to eat. So we are just going to wait here. You can see the stomach looks very big. So it means that warthog that he caught yesterday, he has got quite a lot of meat. Look at his nose. You can see that it's getting old. So this kind of cats, when they're getting old, 7 to 8 years, is when the tip of the nose is starting to get very dark, very dark. So you can see that there's a big difference between Hosanna and Tingana's nose at the moment. So the warthogs are one of those animals which can weigh up to 40 to 75 kilograms. Rosen, it is true, the cats are very much lazy during the day, specifically when the sun is too hot. As I indicated earlier, today the temperature is 38 degrees. So 38 degrees is not good for the cats. Their activities are very much restricted during these kind of hot temperatures. Look at that, he's even closing the eyes. You can see that he's very much tired. This might be due to quite a lot of weather. And then he's breathing with the mouth open. He's trying to get rid of all the heat. So this animal is even experiencing this weather under trees. Say my name. Tingana introduced a new girlfriend last week, and I think now is done because mating amongst these big cats, it doesn't take much long. It takes just few consecutive days. So I think he's going to have some little ones coming. It's just that it's difficult to predict if the little ones are going to make it or not, because little ones, for the cats, they can be very much vulnerable. It's good that he managed to catch something shortly after mating activities, because when these cats are going for mating activities, sometimes they don't even eat at all because they don't want to expose their females to the other males in the area. So they just concentrate on mating and drinking water. So you can see that Osana is very beautiful and he is on a very healthy condition. This cat looks very good. He hasn't been sowing for quite a long. Maybe he was sowing too much in order to convince that female that he is a very strong male and he's got much strength. But now that he's done with the girlfriend, he's not sowing anymore. He's just quiet these days. So I saw some fresh tracks of hyenas also coming to this area, but I'm not seeing them. And the hyenas, they might be also lying down somewhere here by this dry riverbed, as they don't mind waiting until they see if there is a chance or not for them to have something to eat. As these big cats, sometimes they mistakenly drop their kills. Mark, that is very true. The warthog has got a very hard meat, and the skin for the warthog as well is very, very much hard. I can't wait to see Tingana going back and in order to eat that warthog, so that we can see how is he getting rid of that very thick skin. The outer layers of the warthog is very much hard. So the warthogs are part of those animals called the pachyderms. Pachyderms is consisted of the warthogs, the elephants, as well as the hippopotamus. Is those animals, as well as the rhinos, is those animals that has got a very, very thick skin. So the thick-skinned animals can be very difficult to eat. So I can't wait to see Hosanna eating one of the pachyderms. Safari Salim, I didn't get your question very well, but I heard you are asking how long the leopards are taking meat from somewhere. Safari Sally, the males are always very active to address the mating activities whenever the females are ready for mating. So what determines mating activities is not the males, it's the status of the female. When the female is on heat, which is also called oestrus, they secrete some of the scent from their urine, whereby the males are going to come sniff it and determine if she is ready for mating. And that is what leads the male to the mating activities. If another female goes on heat now, Hosanna, after having strength from this warthog, he is going to defend that and he will take over and mate again. So, but sometimes the mating activities are determined by the status of the male. If Hosanna is not well and he is ill, obviously the other males such as Hukumuri, who can also be very aggressive, can be able to chase him out and take over the females. So now let's go back to the Maasai Mara and see what David is having at the moment. I'm sure David already located something.
Very well done, Sydney, for having found the Duke of Juma. I will never forget Tingana, especially because of his magnificent dewlap. Now, talking of the migration, not all the wildebeest will make it. The migration has its own challenges, and a few animals, I would say maybe some percentage of all the wildebeest don't make it round trip. This one could have been brought down by either cats of any kind, be they leopards or lions, but just see what is still remaining. We are watching a sea of wildebeest. Isn't that magnificent? Big credit to Manu, who is magical when he touches the camera. How amazing is that? All the trees you see in the background, we call them torchwood trees, which are very iconic of the Maasai Mara. Is always good. You can visit the Mara any time of the year, but I think during the migration is one of the best time to come and patronize this game reserve. As I said earlier, because the temperatures have gone down now, they can afford to eat. Anita, we have found time immemorial, and for so many years, zebras and the wildebeest have always formed a very good gel. And we think at night the zebras tend to see better, and during the day the wildebeest, we think. And that way they complement each other in terms of safety. So since we started seeing migration of wildebeest, like I would say 100 or like as many years, Anita, wildebeest and zebras have always tagged along together. You look in this group, there are not as many zebras, and most of what you can see here are wildebeest, but there'll be scattered zebras 1, 2, 3 here. But the bigger number are the wildebeest. So when they talk of about, say, 1 point something million of wildebeest, we'll also have about 600, 700,000 zebras moving together with them during the migration. So the fig tree there, and you can see it's not as solid as the other one. And what happens, I was showing you earlier some carcass below this tree, and these carcasses are always cleaned either by hyenas or vultures, like what you see up there. And this is what is called an African white-backed vulture. Nothing goes to waste in the game reserves. Once the cats bring down the herbivores, hyenas will clean the mess that is left behind. Vultures will also do the same. But look in the background there. Not sure, we have some storm way back there. And earlier we got some thunderstorms. And I was telling Manu we might have a storm later in the day. But look at that wall of rain. And that one, it is in Serengeti. Serengeti is a national park neighboring the Mara Triangle in Tanzania. Not sure that storm or wall of rain will be coming towards where we are. Only time will tell. Brett, I would say that's a good one. I would say they are more of antelopes than bovines. I would say wildebeest are more antelopes than bovines, and bovines will be looking at the bovine, and when you talk about the bovine, we'll be talking of buffaloes. So I would say they are more of antelopes than bovines, but that's a great question. When we look at bovines, of the animals like buffaloes in the family of bovine, they get certain infections like pneumonia, which I don't think I've had any wildebeest getting pneumonia or tuberculosis. So most of the animals that belong to the bovine family will get, say, pneumonia, and I would say the wildebeest are more of bovines than the bovine. Manu, do you think we can count how many, what bird is that one there? Is it a vulture flying there? Could be a vulture. Marisa, migration doesn't have a set time. It doesn't start anywhere, it doesn't end anywhere, it doesn't have a particular time. Movement, Melissa, of all those animals you see there. To me, I would say the migration only pauses for 2 weeks, and that's when all these females, which most of them are pregnant, they're dropping the young ones. And they tend to give birth in a country called Tanzania, and they do that in the month of February. And so it's either the first week or the second week of February, and they bring down about, in that 2 weeks, 500,000 to about 600,000 babies in 2 weeks. So that's the only time I would say this migration of these animals press the stop button and then they start moving up again towards Kenya. So we've got so many vultures around here flying. Not always, but sometimes when you see them flying, it's always an indication that there could be some carcass of some kind. And it's a fresh carcass, then chances are it could be, the cats could not be very far from there. So what we're going to do, we're going to reposition ourselves and move to the direction that we can see the vultures from a distance and find out why they are there and what they're doing. So this area has so many rocks, we have to move very slowly. Key to keep going. Get some nice breeze now, and that's the breeze personally I call the rain breeze. Rain breeze. So let's see if I can get a different angle and point out those vultures to you. Man, hold on. It's good road, but a bit rocky too. So my big plans today is to look for the sausage tree pride. They tend to hang a lot, around this area, and this is one area that's full of wildebeest, I would say full of, animals for them. And one of the females in the sausage tree pride got 2 young cubs that I haven't seen. I've been looking for them the last few days. I haven't seen them. What do you think? What's that tree from here? Okay. It's invested by vultures, and they seem to be looking like flowers on that fig tree there. Sorry, man, there. And you notice different sky from what we showed you earlier that was covered with a wall of rain. All those are vultures. They are our garbage collectors in our offices or in the savannah here. Sometimes they're just, grouped together because the species here is the African white-backed vulture. But more often than not, when you see them flocking together, there's always an indication there could be a kill somewhere or a fresh carcass, meaning the killers will not be very far away from there. We've got 7 different types of vultures in Kenya, but these ones are the most common and most frequent that we'll see around. As you're gonna search in this area and see if we could be lucky to find out if there are any cats here. Sydney has a confirmed one, and he'll show us the Duke again.
So you can see that now Tingana is enjoying his sleep for the afternoon, which is very normal for these cats. As I can tell you, these cats, after eating quite a lot of meat, they need quite a lot of space in order to facilitate their digestive system. You mustn't forget that this is an interactive activity. You can follow us on Twitter, hashtag Safari Live. You can also follow us on YouTube chat stream. So you can see that Hosanna is feeling very much safe as how he's lying down there. He's lying down flat. He's in the middle of the drainage whereby he cannot even see other animals coming, such as the hyenas. But Tingana, I think, is much more different from Hosanna. He's not worried too much about. So you can see that these cats are at the bottom here by the stomach. The spots, they are much more bright, and this bright white helps them in order to reflect the heat. On top, you can see it's different, so it's much more brown. So the brown color absorbs, whereas the white color at the bottom by the bellies, they can help them in order to get rid of the heat when it's too hot. Yeah, it's always very much interesting. I'm very sure that it's not all about hunting and eating the warthog. He's also tired from the mating activities that he was facilitating with the new girlfriend, because this mating, they need quite a lot of energy. So when they're mating, every time you'll hear them also growling. So there's quite a lot of strength, much strength needed. This cat is breathing so fast because the temperature is too much and the bellies are also very full. You can see that when he is inhaling and exhaling in there because the stomach is very full. So that's why this animal must have to be. It's not having a lot in the stomach. The breathing rate, it becomes nice and low. But now he's trying very fast because the stomach is packed. So the first droppings this cat is going to excrete here is going to be very much dark due to quite a lot of red meat and blood from this warthog. So, but now, oh, yeah, the Duke is now up. Let's see what he's thinking. Oh, he's just changing the side. That was lovely. So now let's go to one of my colleagues who is also waiting to show you something very interesting at the moment.
Well, Sydney, I hope so. At this stage, we are just bumbling about with not too much interesting to show you right now, but hopefully in time. Just moved into a very difficult position, and given where he was, we decided we'll come back later. When it gets a bit cooler, I'm sure he's going to go back to that carcass and hopefully go and feed on it. And so what I decided was that we'd head up towards Gari Gate. There was a report that the Avoca males were on a kill up that side, but it's actually an old sort of sighting. It was a sighting from early September that somebody, I think, posted today, and so there's no sign of them up there. What there is a sign of, though, is a herd of buffalo coming down, and so it'll be quite nice to catch up with them. I actually thoroughly enjoyed spending some time with their brethren up in the forests of Congo, so we spent a lot of time with buffalo up there. Very different to these guys that we see down here. Very different look about them. They have a much more kind of reddish coat, much smaller animals as well. They probably, I would say, the big adult males are probably around the size of a sort of 5-6-year-old buffalo, 4-5-6-year-old buffalo, female, so they're not big at all. They top weight, I think, is only about 320 kilos, which is what, close to 700 pounds, whereas, you know, the ones that we get here can be much closer towards sort of 1,600 pounds. So they're a lot smaller, but it's quite amazing there. So what happens is that you find them, they spread out all the way through the forest, and in the forest itself you hardly see them. You just kind of see signs of them, but very difficult to spot. They're quite shy and flighty. Particularly that area is so new to conservation that they really haven't had time to kind of get used to people yet, and so they're quite nervous in that area. But in certain places, particularly where the camps are, they're on these areas called bays. Now a bay is a saline, so it's a place where there is water and a lot of minerals that is easy to be able to get. But hang on, sorry, it looks like wild doggy tracks. I just want to just check these quickly. I don't know when the dogs were last seen, but there's definitely tracks for the wild dogs here on the road. But they don't look too fresh, so they're kind of coming down from this right hand side, Seb. I don't think you'll be able to see them. Let me just go back a little bit. But these don't look as though they're from during the day today. They look a little bit older than that, but there you can see them just kind of cutting this little area there. There we go. So that's from the wild dogs that were around. Now I'm not sure, maybe Sydney will let me know, or Taylor, if she's an FC, can let me know when the last time the dogs were seen. But they seem to have been playing around here and moving about in this area. But they, like I say, don't look like the freshest of tracks. They look as though they're a couple days old. So I'm pretty sure these dogs are probably long gone. But getting back to the buffalo, so there's these kind of areas called, bays, and it's an amazing kind of thing because all these creatures of the forest, so things like the gorillas, chimps, elephants, buffalo, river hogs, sitatunga, western harness bushbuck, they all come out onto these saline areas, and they come and basically feed off the plants and then drink from these bays, and then they dig up the mud, which has got all this mineral content that they basically. And so you'll find that in the afternoons, particularly at the one camp that we stayed at called Lango, and feeding on and drink the water, and it's pretty good and clear and obviously quite tasty. There's this beautiful big bay, and so you go down into the bay and you go and sit actually in the water, and the water's probably, I would say, about knee deep. So if you sit in it, it comes up to about your chest, and you sit there, and the buffalo actually come down and they come and they drink probably, I would say, maybe 20-30 meters away from you, sometimes even closer. We had one particular group that crossed about 10 meters from us. And it's absolutely unbelievable to be sitting there and having these buffalo come past. And if you sit dead still and quiet, then they actually are quite relaxed. They don't worry about and stay there, it was really quite a phenomenal experience to be kind of in there. And it's completely against kind of what you would do with the buffalo that we see here. We know that the buffalo here are a lot more sort of aggressive, if you want to call it that, and far more temperamental than what these guys are. In saying that, though, it kind of got lured into a false sense of security because we kind of stayed very close to the camp. I surmise that those buffalo there, much like many of the other animals that we see here, like bushbuck and those kind of things that hang around the camp, is that they've got fairly used to people on foot, and so they're not too bad in that particular area, and it's almost like they expect to see people around the camp and stuff, and so they were quite relaxed. But what the guys told me, though, that the eco guards, which is basically the anti-poaching unit of that area, is that pretty much those poor guys, one of them is killed at least one every year by those forest buffalo. So even though they are not as temperamental as what our buffalo are, they're actually a lot nicer than what these are. So it'll be nice to catch up with these guys again, just kind of reinforce how much bigger they really are in comparison to, to those guys up north. But they're a beautiful, beautiful animal. And what was also interesting with them is that no one buffalo was the same. They all were different. So, Francis, I'm pretty sure many of you would want to know how I felt seeing the gorillas. Well, what I can tell you about it is that it's unlike anything that you can really think of. So, I mean, I obviously have a lot of friends that have seen the gorillas and have spent a lot of time with them, and, they tell you about it, and I've chatted to Brent about it, and it's very, very, very different to what you actually expect. And also with the Western lowland gorillas, it's a very different environment to where most people go and view gorillas. So most people will go to Rwanda, Uganda, maybe into the Democratic Republic of Congo, the DRC, and they'll go and see the mountain gorillas or the eastern lowlands. Both of those are the bigger species within the gorilla kind of grouping. And they tend to occur on these mountain slopes where it's much easier to get to them, and generally the forest area is not as thick as where these western lowlands hang out. These western lowlands hang around in these incredible big thick plantations or forests, and there's basically in these forest areas there's a plant that grows there that's from the wild ginger family called Marantaceae. And so this Marantaceae grows in these basic groves, which can range anywhere from sort of hip high to way over your head. I mean, some of the stuff we walk through, you can't see really the sun at all. And so it's very difficult to actually see the gorillas. But the first morning we went out tracking them, we kind of went out and we got very, very lucky. The group that had gone before us in the previous week, they had taken them about 6 hours to track down this particular group of gorillas. There's 2 groups that they view there, and we kind of drove to an area where they had been seen and got off, and we was prepared to do a long walk, and we did about 15 minutes before we heard the first sounds of them coming. And basically it's quite amazing is that because of how thick it is that you don't actually see them, you hear them before you see them. You kind of get this sound all around you, and these vocalizings, and they beat their chest, and it's a loud drum-like sound. Seb, you've seen the Western Lowlands, haven't you? Yes, yeah. So Seb's also seen them, which is very cool in Gabon. And you get this incredible sound, and then it's kind of eerie because all you see is the vegetation moving. It's like something out of Jurassic Park. You see the vegetation moving, and then there's just a brief glimpse of this dark shape that moves through. And eventually, as you kind of get into the right position, so they start to reveal themselves. They climb quite a lot. The Western Lowland gorilla is a very active animal. It climbs a lot, it moves a lot like a chimpanzee in that it's up and down, and they move and cover distance quite quickly. Not like the mountain gorillas that kind of get into a place and they're much slower moving animals. And so you see them going up into the trees, and it's pretty insane to kind of watch this whole thing. You know that they're wild animals, but they are so human-like in so many ways. And we see baboons here and we often make that comparison, but they are even more like people, and in fact they are the closest thing to people. They have 98% of the same DNA that we do, and so it's pretty much, it was intriguing to watch these kind of family units and the way they go about things. And what I will tell you as well is that the silverbacks are as intimidating as you can imagine. Now don't run, Duiker. So there goes the Duiker that's just running off. Sorry, Seb, don't worry about that. What we can get though is there was a Koran here, or a black-bellied bustard. I can't see which one. It's just hiding behind a tree at the moment. So Seb, that fallen stump there to the right where there's the bush, little thicket of that fallen stump, you'll see a little head that's just behind there. If you go in straight onto that tree, just to the right a little bit for me. Right. All right, there we go. You just see it moving in the background. So it looks like a red-crested Koran from here. I think if we maybe go around, Seb, we might get a better view of it. But these guys are fairly common, and their camouflage is absolutely amazing because they kind of have this mottled back, and they'll often present their back to you when they've just been disturbed. So if we just go here somewhere, it's a little further than I was hoping for. Okay, there it is. You've got it. So it does look like a red-crested Koran. It can be quite tricky to tell the difference between the two when they're so camouflaged, because the black-bellied bustard and red-crested Koran are quite similar in size and even look, and so you kind of got to see the throat area before you can really 100% confirm it. But it is a red-crested Koran, and you can see what I mean about that camouflage back. They present that to you, and it really is very tricky to see them. They really do blend very, very well. And then what they'll do is they'll kind of walk around and they pick off all kinds of little food items. And then when they're disturbed, they kind of jump out and they open their wings, and there's this jet black stomach and chest area and wing area, and that means that a predator sees that and then will follow that in the air, and they kind of have a labored flying pattern, and then they land again, and all of that gets hidden. And so a predator then looks for black rather than this camouflage coloration and can easily overlook them. So it's a very clever kind of disruptive pattern that they've got. It's called flash coloration, and you find many animals use it, particularly insects. A lot of your locust species have bright wing colors and then are quite camouflaged on the outside. But these guys have the most amazing display flight, which we've seen a few times on Safari Live. They basically make a bit of a noise and then they fly up into the air, and then they just do this suicidal plummet downwards towards the ground, where they kind of then at the last second open their wings and land, and then it's very, very cool to see. So a nice bird to have, and good to see the different birds again. The forest birds were Not at all like most of the birds that we see here, but we'll get into the birds at some point because that's a whole nother story altogether. Right, the buffalo drank here and have moved off, and so we're going to try and see where they've gone. While we do that, let's send you across to Sydney and probably a very lazy Tingana.
I am still here with the very lazy Tingana. You can see he's still lying down at the same position, but this is much better because he's lying down on the side, and the other side is changing the size too much. I think the warthog, the meat is too hard, and it's just packed in his stomach because it's not settled. It's changing positions all the time. So I hope he's going to wake up here and go up to the tree and carry on eating so that we can see how he's managing to cut those kind of hard pieces of the warthog. So when these cats are breathing fast like this, it also assists them in order to cool their brain temperature. Because when it's hot like this and when they are working too much, the brain gets overheating, and then they must have to do this in order to cool it. Or otherwise, they must have to yawn every time. When they are yawning is when they are cooling the brain temperature. Not only the leopards, including the lions as well. You can see that the ears are concentrating every time. They can swivel these ears around and they can hear a lot. So they can hear even more than 4 times more than how we can hear. So it seems like he's not going to have a competitor at the moment. Yes, I saw the tracks for the hyenas, but he's just by himself here. So we're just going to wait and see what is going to happen, or else we will leave him and come back again later on and see if we can find you something interesting. So now we can go to the Maasai Mara. David has got one of the most interesting, colorful birds.
Nikasupu, eh? Well, stop, go back there, go back where you are. We just had a kingfisher right on that stalk there, and man is trying to find out where she has gone, and we had a malachite kingfisher. Chances are when they leave where they had perched before, that's where exactly she was on that stalk. She went down either looking for a fish at that pond of water. They'll be known to come back to where they had perched initially. We just want to find out if she'll come back there, but it was a malachite kingfisher, one of the kingfishers that is so beautiful to watch. They're very small in size. Let's see if she's gonna pop up. Manu is doing everything possible to see whether we are going to be able to locate her again. She just flew from where she was. Let's find out. It's one of the smallest malachite. We have a smaller one that we call the dwarf kingfisher, but this particular one here was the malachite kingfisher. As Manu is trying to get it, I'll also try and go to my book, and of course, if physically she doesn't show up, we'll be able to see her in my book. It's one of my, I would say my favorite kingfisher. That's exactly where she was. That's where she has been fishing last 5 minutes. And she went on that white stalk of that sage grass you see there. And as soon as we put on the frame, she decided to go away. I don't know where she went. Leah, I agree with you. Beautiful colors. Of all the kingfishers, the malachite and the dwarf kingfisher, I think those two in that family are the most beautiful ones. And as we wait to see if... Good. Anybody who saw it before it flew away, thank you so very much. And as we wait to see whether she'll come back, anybody who might have missed it, I'll request Manu just to come to my book. And we're going to see how a kingfisher looks like, malachite kingfisher. And very good Manu. Oops, sorry. That's good Manu, number 4 there. Do we need to do anything else? Oh, that's good. All right, if you look there, number 4, that was what we just saw earlier, and that was the malachite kingfisher. Look at those colors. Right behind her, if Manuel, you come back to me again, that one there, number 3A, and that one is the dwarf, or the African pygmy kingfisher. African pygmy kingfisher. And the difference between the two, apart from size, the pygmy has a bit of purple on the cheeks there. The pygmy kingfisher has a bit of purple, and the malachite has some nice green or malachite color there on the head. Safari life rule, you're asking whether they do migrate. I would say kingfishers, not that I know of. I haven't even heard of any Eurasian kingfishers. So I would say kingfishers do not migrate. And so long as they're guaranteed there's water, do you think mammals come back? They tend to remain in the same area. So I would say kingfishers do not migrate. That was her home, and that's why she has been patching to look for fish below that pond. And I would have been very happy if we could have a view of her again. But then this is how things go out here in the wilderness. So yeah, kingfishers do not migrate. We got, of course, other birds that we know that migrate. We got bee-eaters, like the Eurasian bee-eaters that do migrate. We got rollers, like the European roller, that do migrate. But not that I can remember a kingfisher off my head now that do migrate. Where are you, malachite kingfisher? Initially I thought it was the pygmy kingfisher, and I told man, why? We haven't seen one pygmy for a long time. And we just found out it was the malachite. She isn't very far from there, because I want to believe there's a lot of food or a lot of fish in that pond. Juma, how are you today? And always very good to hear your name and get a question or a comment from you. We got different types of kingfishers here, and to many people, I would say the most popular kingfisher to many guides, it is the pied kingfisher. Pied kingfisher, people say because of the black and white, and personally I would say yes, apart from the black and white, when you see them fishing, they tend to fly on top of water. And don't worry or wonder why I'm not leaving this spot, because I'm still crossing my fingers that the malachite kingfisher will come back. So the pied kingfisher tend to fly over water, and then they stay in one spot above the water, flap their wings, and the fish get mesmerized by a bird or whichever animal is just flapping its wing, and then they look up, and this pied kingfisher just do a swoop right in the water. Before the fish realizes that it is in trouble, the pied kingfisher cuts them up. So I'd say too many guides, including myself, I think the pied kingfisher happened to be popular. Well, if my pied kingfisher, the malachite kingfisher doesn't come back, I'll take you across to South Africa and find out what animal Tristan got.
Well, we've got the tallest animal of them all, the giraffe, that is busy having a good little feed over there on some green shoots that are coming through. So it's about, I suppose it's probably the only bit of green that's out here. It is still very, very dry in this area, but it is a beautiful example of a male giraffe. He's obviously kind of been hanging around this area most of the day because there's lots and lots of tracks for him going all over the place. I see he's actually got a friend up front in the form of a female that's way, way, way ahead of us down in the distance, which we'll, I suppose, catch up with as we go, because he's kind of plodding his way along slowly before he decided to stop and feed off this little apple leaf that he is busy tucking into. Now, I'm sure warmed up, because warming up generally means that rain starts to kind of come out, and when the rain falls, that means a lot more food for a browsing animal. There's very little browse at the moment for these guys, and so I'm pretty sure they're looking forward to the rains coming and to be able to then start to feed a lot more than what they've been able to this winter. It is still very, very, very difficult conditions for animals, and we talked about the drought of 2016. We've spoken about it many, many times before, and we were saying that, you know, kind of we had a bit of rain and it feels like the drought broke a little bit, but it hasn't really. I mean, it's still in quite a dire state at the moment. There's very little water, and I actually spent a night yesterday with a friend of mine up near Palabora, which is kind of northern sections of the Kruger. And if you think it is dry here, it is even worse there. There's not a single blade of grass anywhere, much like it was in 2016. But there goes our giraffe just ghosting through the thickets. And you can see how well they actually camouflage when they start to move through. But let's just carry on forward. We might get the rest of them up front here. Hello, Goquin. I reckon that he is 24 feet and 12 inches. Exactly. No more, no less. No, honestly don't know how tall he is exactly, but I would reckon he's probably, I mean, he's a fairly big boy. He's almost fully grown now. And so, you know, when they're fully grown, a male will reach about sort of 5.5 meters at fully grown, maybe sometimes as much as 6. So I suppose he could grow a little bit more still. He looks as though he hasn't really developed too many sort of knobbled bony deposits on his forehead, so maybe he'll get a little bit taller. But what do you reckon, Seb? 5.5 meters? What's that in feet? I don't even know what that is in feet. About 5.5. Yeah, so Seb says I'm spot on. There we go, Seb. It's not bad. We're not too rusty, are we? The two of us. Seb did a little fancy calculation and is behind me here. Well, how did you count that, Seb?
So I thought if I stand next to it...
If you stand next to it, how many of you would it be?
Exactly, up to that it would be like pretty much like 2.5.
2.5 of you.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm 1 meter 80.
1 meter 80 for Sebastian. So there we go. So that's how Seb has drawn that conclusion as to how tall this giraffe is. So we reckon around 5.5 meters, which, like I say, I'm not quite sure what that is in feet. 20 something, 24, 25 feet. Am I right? Somewhere around there? I think so. I might be wrong though. But our giraffe is slowly but surely disappearing through thicker vegetation and starting to go kind of into the block, so we're not going to really hassle it too much, because I've also spotted another animal that's coming down, or just has had a drink at the sort of pumped pan in front of where Tela camp. So I'm going to go and just kind of spend some time with them. Is an animal that you often associate with giraffe. In fact, many people do, and there's a band in South Africa that's named after both of these species. So there's a band that is called Zebra and Giraffe, and so the other animals is Zebra, which we're going to go and find now. Right, that giraffe is disappearing and wandering off away from us, so let's go and find the zebras. They're right in the bowl of the dam at the moment, so those of you that have been watching the dam cam probably can see them, and we'll go and have a little look at them. There they are, they're just kind of coasting through that thicket. So while we kind of watch them go about their business and see what they kind of get up to in the dusty bowl, let's send you across to Sydney, who's got something I think that might fly away.
I've got two most beautiful long-legged birds here. So the saddle-billed storks. So this is the first time I'm seeing these kind of birds. So I haven't seen them before. These birds are very much beautiful. Look at that. Nice and tall with very long legs. So there's too much mud there, but because of these long legs, these birds can be able to walk right in there. Look at that. Because you can see now that the water is starting to get dry by, look at that, it's sinking down, but these legs are too long. So the dams are now starting to get dry, the perennial dams and non-perennial dams now, because of the sun and the rain which is not coming. So there's quite a lot of mud, so these birds are looking for something to eat there. Nick, I'm not too sure what kind of fish are occurring here in this kind of a dam. So it's very much difficult to tell the predator fish which are under these kind of waters. You can see that one spotted something and went very quickly, but lost it again. So these are one of the birds which are very much well gifted. It is my first time to see this kind of birds in real life. Look at that very long beak. A nice black and white colors, as if they are wearing a black suit with white shirt. So when the dams are getting dry like this, the fish, they get exposed and they can be able to take them, but some of the fish, they can be able to stuck here in between these muds. So you can see that this kind of a bird with long legs is like a 4x4. They cannot get stuck. So, Juma, I don't think these kind of birds can easily get stuck. You can see that these legs are well designed. It's like they've got a 4x4. You can see locking system. You can see that now he's demonstrating to us that he will never get stuck. Look at that. So all the toes can sink down and the body can still remain on top. You can see now he just excreted some droppings there with quite a lot of white on them, showing quite a lot of uric acid. So it's my first time to see the bird with such very long legs, apart from the ostrich. Chris, you can tell the sex of the birds from the colors, because some of these birds, during the breeding season, the color of the feathers, they change. For example, we have got the birds such as the ostrich. During their breeding season, you will see they dominate some pink stripes on their legs and the beak changes to pink. And that tells you now is the breeding season. The francolins, like the crested francolins, the males, you will see them developing quite a lot of crest here on the side of the head. And the yellow rambling widows as well, when the breeding season comes, they change to black and yellow. After breeding season, they go back to normal. You will see them brown. So I'm just going to carry on now and see what we are going to find by Chitwa. So now let's go to David by the Maasai Mara and see what he's having at the moment. So you can see that these birds, they are pretty much relaxed. Now I'll be heading to the Chitwa and see what we are going to find there. I'm hoping to find some other animals bathing as the sun is very, very hot. Maybe big animals such as the elephants. We might find them there doing some swimming activities. So the elephants, they prefer to swim a lot when the sun is like this and to do the mud wallowing. Last week I saw fresh tracks around Chitwa of a very big head of the buffaloes there. Maybe we might be lucky with the buffaloes there as well. The sun is cooling down here in this area where I am at the moment. It's not like when we started. When we started, it was very, very hot, but now it's getting better. The wind is blowing. Oh, look at that. This is a very beautiful kudu there. This is a magnificent kudu. You can see that this kudu is now concentrating on some of the leaves from the small trees. Look at that. Look at those horns. You can see that they are very wide and very long. So these horns can grow up to 75 inches, which is very, very, very big. Look at that. So you can be able to easily judge the age of these animals just from the horns. So they can be able to complete the cycle of the spiral horns when they're about 3 to 5 years. Look at the beards as well. It makes it much more beautiful. Look at that animal. Lorena, that is true. This is a very big one. Look at the ears. He's trying to listen to what I am doing at the moment. And there's even a bird which is giving kind of a call. I'm sure this bird here next to me, which is giving kind of a call, is confusing the kudu. So there is a hornbill there now. So this hornbill is just busy cleaning himself, and he's cleaning while he's vocalizing. So that is what is confusing that kudu there. Because these birds, they help these animals to warn them about the presence of the predators. It's very rare to see the kudus alone. Maybe there is more other kudus deep in the thick bushes already. So kudus are browsers, so they feed only on these leaves. But now I can see they are targeting all the evergreen trees. So now let's go back to Tristan, who's got a very, very small buck at the moment.
Well, I do have a small antelope. I have got a very accommodating little duiker, which is always nice to see these guys, and particularly when you kind of at a low angle like this, where you kind of can be at the same sort of eye level as what they are. And you can see it's kind of a little bit twitchy, watching us as it goes along. It's feeding at the base of this tree, and I can't help but think maybe that there's a few little fruits that have maybe fallen that it's busy feeding off. It did have a partner with it, but unfortunately the partner ran away very quickly, and so has left this one to deal with us on its own. I can't see if it's the male or the female. Is there little horns there, Seb? It doesn't look like it, doesn't. So the male has left his lady. That's not very chivalrous at all, is it? No. I think if we did that, Seb, we'd be in a lot of trouble, wouldn't we? If we just left them to face the danger. But female doesn't seem to be too perturbed by us at all. She's kind of going away at the ground looking for all kinds of food. But always nice to see these guys. You can actually see the little crest that they get. So you'll find that there it is. It's a very, very cool shot, actually. Well done, Sebastian. It's very difficult to get shots like this of duikers often, especially in an open environment like this. They typically tend to kind of dart into thickets, and it's normally because you're kind of looking down at them that you don't really get an impression for a lot of little sort of attributes of them. That crest gets quite lost when they're down, but this is a very cool angle where you can actually see everything on them. You can also see that their sort of back legs are a little bit longer than their front legs. It's an interesting kind of thing about a duiker is that they do. There's a little hornbill too that's joined the fray. Everybody's having fun there. So the hornbill's pecking around for termites. I would imagine the poor termites are also waiting for a bit of rain so that they can actively start building properly again, because it's nice and warm and they'll be doing a lot of maintenance to their mounds to be able to control temperature. It's quite difficult work at the moment because they don't have soft soil to be able to dig up and move around. They've got to actually work a little harder. When it rains, it's much easier for these guys to actually build. And so you'll find when we do get a bit of moisture, the termites should build quite quickly. Hello, little one. Don't you love the way that antelope chew, especially these kind of shyer ones? They always chew so quickly. It always makes me laugh. And that's a very, very cool shot of a duiker, that's for sure. Yeah, not every day that you get it like that. Well done, Sebastian. Very, very cool. So, Joe, yes, it's a unicorn. Exactly. They've got this little tuft that does often make them look like that. I know that the young males will sometimes have these tufts like this to try and almost look a little bit like they've got horns, which stops the bigger males from actually attacking them as much and allows them to actually stay within their sort of mom's natal range for a little bit longer. So they'll sometimes have that tuft. But that's definitely an adult female. The adult male was with her just now, but like I say, he bolted away at the sight of us. Now you need to be very careful. We're not far from where Hosanna was earlier, and so it's going to be a tough night if you go running around to the north of where you are now, Little Duiker, so don't go that way. Stay where you are now. You'll be absolutely fine if it spends its time there. But you can see very twitchy. The wind has just kicked up a little bit. Sydney was sort of commenting on the wind just now, and in the last, I'd say maybe about half an hour, it's really started to kind of blow a little bit harder, and there's a few gusts that are coming through, and as it gusts you can see that Duiker gets a little bit more nervous. So every time there's a bit of a gust, it kind of then looks up at us and it will get a lot more twitchy about what's going on. I wonder if it's not feeding off the jackalberry fruits that have maybe fallen. You'll find some of these animals do that. Now, sorry, Emma, if you can just repeat the name for me. Shishik. Do you get duikers in the Mara? Well, not these common duikers that you see here. I certainly didn't see any while I was there. Lots and lots of steenbok that are there, and a little thing called a Duiker, but not these common duikers that we get like this. So these are a good special in South Africa. We see a lot of them here, but not up that side. So the small antelopes that you get there are the little Duiker and the steenbok, like I say, and obviously the Thompson's gazelle is probably a little bit bigger than they are. Not too much, actually. It's not too much bigger than a duiker. They look a lot bigger than they really are, little Tommy's gazelle. But they're actually quite small animals. They're almost kind of between this and a goat size. That's what I would probably say in terms of the size of them. But unfortunately, none of these common duikers up in the Mara. You probably do get blue duiker or red duikers in the forested areas on the escarpment there. I'm not actually sure. I must try and... I can't remember now. There might be. The reason why I'm a bit confused about it, and I'll tell you, is because in the Congo they have, I don't even know how many different species of duiker there. They've got amazing ones, including one that's called a yellow-backed duiker. Now that yellow-backed duiker is massive. It's almost the size of, I would say, a Thompson's gazelle. So it's much bigger. In fact, maybe even bigger than a Tommy's gazelle. They're a beautiful, beautiful animal. So there's all kinds of different duiker species up there. I think they have in total 14, if I'm not mistaken, or something like that. I'll try and remember it. I'll try to get the figure, but there's lots. There's Peters, there's yellow-backed, there's red, there's blue. There's all kinds of different duikers there, and crazy-looking ones as well. So it's a very, very cool thing to find them out there. The forest is an amazing place, I must be honest. It's so far removed from what we have here. It would be really nice to one day hopefully go there with all of you on board, and maybe go and see all of these things with all of you watching as well. Now we're going to just go back to where Hosanna's kill is, see if maybe our cat has arrived back. I saw a battalier fly overhead. Yes, there he is. He's at his tree. So that's perfect timing. And I saw a battalier fly when we were down at the dam from here. And so the battaliers will sit in the tree, and if Hosanna comes back towards the kill, then they fly away very quickly. And so that's why I thought he might be back at the tree, and it's why we've come here. So he's just sitting right at the base of this tree over there. Hello, boy. Now, I'm going to position ourselves slightly better so that we're a little bit downhill of him, so we can get a nice low angle like we had with that little duiker. Is that all right, Sebastian? Hold on. Let's just try and get through here. Now, this should be a nice little angle that we should get here. Just careful there, Seb. You all right? So Seb is good. I'm just going to straighten Seb out. Hello, Seb. Is that low now? There we go. So that's perfect, apparently. We've done a good job. But there he is, panting away as ever. He does look a lot bulkier than when I left. Maybe it's just because I haven't seen him for a while, but his shoulders and his neck area are really kind of getting quite large, and he's looking as healthy as ever. So it's really good that he's kind of getting as many meals as he is, and finding the food that he needs to survive. So, Laurie... difficult to say. It does look like he's a little bit bulkier. I obviously haven't seen him stand yet, so I would be quite keen to see him stand up, but he does look a little bulkier. Seb, what do you think? Seb also agrees that he does look a bit thicker set around the shoulders particularly. Looks like his neck has grown a bit, and maybe a little bit more of a hang in his neck as that dewlap begins to form. But, 3 weeks is not that long, I suppose, and so difficult to say. I mean, it's always, you kind of think about something and its size 3 weeks ago. It's always a hard thing to judge, because generally you have an opinion of things, and maybe he looks a little bit bigger, but not too much, I would say. He's a growing boy, and so I'd expect there to be a little bit of a development, but not much. And he really does look fantastic. He also looks as though he is suffering heavily in this heat. Hosanna, it's not easy to be a fat cat when you have got a 38-degree weather day. So he's going to be very happy to know that this weekend we are set to get cooler weather, and so he'll not have to deal with this hot sun nearly as much as he has over the course of today. It's really, you can see, it takes its toll on these cats. I'm sure Tingana was a very similar picture when Sydney was with him earlier, as he kind of pants away and tries to just cool himself down and try and just kind of use that vapor that's being lifted off his tongue to cool that blood and to try and get that body temperature under control. You know, cats are obviously animals that covered in fur, and so body temperature can be a bit of an issue, and if they don't have water, shade and the ability to pant well, then there is really no chance for them to actually survive in conditions like this. So they're very, very fortunate that they're able to do what they do to be able to survive. I suppose it's part of living out here. But there you can see the bushbuck horns that are sticking out. So it's a male bushbuck that he killed, a rather fair-sized one, and it's probably why he lost it to hyenas. So Taylor was telling me this morning, and then I saw the tracks now of where there was hyena interaction, and he managed to steal some back. So I think what happened is you probably find the hyenas ate quite a lot of this and ate their fill almost, and then he was able to get in and steal it back. There's really not that much left there at all. They've pretty much stripped a lot of it, and he's had a good feeder as well, and so, you know, I don't think it'll last too much longer. Had it been something that he killed last night by himself and the hyenas hadn't got involved, that would have been a kill that he would have struggled to hoist, and would have probably lasted easily, 3 days. It's a bushbuck male is not a small animal at all, but I suspect that this might be the bushbuck male that hung around for a while, and we've been seeing him at the dam quite a bit. So you used to see him on the nest cams when we were doing that, and he was starting to get a little bit skinny, which is to be expected of the antelopes at this time of the year. They do lose a bit of condition as it gets dry, and so I think Hosana has probably taken advantage of that and has decided to kind of take that particular specimen and probably find it was a bit weaker and slower than it normally would be. Right, well, we're going to spend the rest of our afternoon with Hosana because this is the best thing that I could ever ask for when coming back to work. And so while we do that, let's send you across to Sydney, who's decided to go and check out some of the larger waterholes in this afternoon heat.
Listen to that. Is that not amazing? I like the hippopotamus when they're doing it like this. Is very much interesting. I can feel that I am by the Chitwa Dam at the moment. You can see there's quite a lot of hippos there. This is a school of the hippopotamus. They are all right underwater. The sun is too strong. None of them is outside this waterhole today. So that is telling us the sun indeed is very, very hot today. So unfortunately, these animals cannot go for feeding purposes now during the day. When the sun is like this, they experience quite a lot of sunburn. There's quite a very interesting story, old story about the hippopotamus. So these hippopotamus, when they were designed in order to live on land. And then when he was living outside, he was experiencing quite a lot of sunburn. And then he went to the Father of Creation and asked if he can be allowed to stay by the dams. But because of the design of the two structure and the big mouth, he was told that going back to the waterhole, you are going to destroy my fish and you're going to destroy my crocodiles. And then the hippopotamus gave a promise that he is not going to eat any of the fish and crocodiles. If you check the hippopotamus, how they demarcate their territories, they defecate and disperse their droppings, make use of their tails, in order to show the Father of Creation that it's only grass. There is no piece of bones here on my droppings. You can see I am loyal and I'm going to remain loyal. So these animals can go out here and travel very, very long distances. Look at that one is dispersing. You can see this is how they show. You can see it's showing that it's only grass, there is no bones. So maybe he was listening to me. So that is how they show that they only eat grass, they don't eat meat. So it's amazing today seeing that these hippopotamus don't even have the... That is quite a lovely comment. So I can see that here the hippopotamus today, look at that. They don't even have oxpeckers. So the oxpeckers, they are not here today. Maybe they are out there with the buffaloes. That was a very nice play, seeing them flicking the tails and dispersing the droppings. So these animals are very much big. When they're in there, they look very small. But I can promise you, it's quite a very big animal which can weigh 800 to 900 kilograms. That is very big. So I thought they were going to call again, but I can see nothing is happening. So these animals can be able to submerge for approximately 6 minutes. They go underwater and then come out after that. So they've got those kind of island there, and this island helps them because they can be able to climb there just for basking the sun when they need be. So the hippopotamus, the females, they normally give birth at any time of the year, but mostly these animals prefer to give birth after the first rains because that is when everything is available. Nutritious grass is there, not only nutritious grass for the little ones to have, but the nutritious grass for the females themselves to feed on so that they can perform a very good milking period. So there's quite a lot of little ones there. I can see some of the head, they look very much small. Look at that. So you can see that one is a little one, and that is a female as well. Considering the outer layers of the eyes, which looks pink, it means it's the one who is then nursing those little ones there. So these animals, when they're outside water, they can be very much aggressive. Especially if you come across them between the water, and if you are between them and the water hole, that is when you will have a big problem. So their tortoises can also be very big because they can travel for about 30 kilometers. So the hippopotamus, if you look at them, they have got kind of more or less the same kind of behavior as the amphibians. These animals live in water and on land. That is the definition of the amphibians. So hippopotamus, mostly they give birth in water. They rarely give birth outside. They give birth in water, and the little ones can be able to also suckle milk underwater shortly after birth. I haven't seen the hippopotamus giving birth, but I know they give birth in water. So I'm not alone here at this sighting. You can hear there's some other vehicles pulling out, in and out. So now let's go back to the Maasai Mara and see what David is having at the moment.
Well, my apologies because you lost me earlier for some technical reasons. Happens once in a while. And I was talking about the sausage tree pride of lions and why they were called the sausage tree pride of lions or the sausage tree, because they normally tend to hang around very solid trees, and they have always chosen the sausage tree The huge trees remain green. They've got very big branches. They make very good shade. And this particular pride, when it's very hot, they tend to either go on top of that, of the sausage trees, or when they got so many flies around, like during the rainy season and the rain, the flies are becoming a nuisance to them, so they tend to climb on top of the sausage tree. And that's how they ended up with that name of the sausage tree. So every pair of lions has, or we have been able to identify it and give it a name, and this will use different reasons to give them the names. And this particular pride that I'm looking for today that I haven't seen yet, that's how it got its name. As I said earlier, for those maybe who are not watching, they got two tiny cubs, and I haven't seen them as yet. I'd be more than happy to see them today or maybe tomorrow. Lots of wildebeest, lots of zebras where we are, and when we look for the cats, we'll always use factors like availability of food, availability of water, and then we'll always have an idea that, you know, they could be in that particular area. Lions are very territorial. They won't keep changing their homes like cheetahs, especially the females. So we'll always know in a particular area, this is the part that you'll see a particular pride of lions. Just want to wave to my friends as we just pass them, as we head out. So friends of ours, enjoying the beauty of the Mara Triangle. And the direction we are heading to, we are seeing another wall of rain. I don't know whether Manu, you are able to get that too far. The other part that was seeing rain before was the Tanzania side, or the direction we're heading towards the camp. We can see another huge wall of rain that's picking up. And if anything now, we'll be talking of the short rains. Remember, as again I said earlier, and my friends Sydney and Tristan have said, our drive is very interactive. Your questions are always very healthy, or any comments you may have, keep sending them through. Tweet on hashtag Safari Live. The zebras are making their way, walking in a different direction, away from the rain. But me and Manu are driving towards the rain. Beautiful light. Interesting one part, we have some nice sunlight, and in the background some heavy rain. But that's Africa for you. Sometimes you get to see 2-3 different weather patterns in a radius of say 20-30 kilometers. So the sun is shining in that particular area, then you get shaded areas covered because of the cloud, and you'll see some rains. You can hear some thunderstorms from a distance. And hopefully we don't have as heavy rains as we had a couple of months ago. So the zebra is just walking through the savannah. And the direction they're going, there's a little area with a little swamp, and they could be going for a drink. And always walking in a single file. I've always thought they think that stay together, walk in a line. If you get lions, make sure there's someone in front of you and someone behind you. And Sinak hyenas also tend to bring down the wildebeest and the zebras during this time around, during the migration. And what we'll do, Sinak, at one point today, if time allows, we'll swing by the hyena den of the Wafus of the North Clan. And always very good to hear your name, Sinak, and happy that you keep watching these exciting sightings we bring to you from the wilderness of Kenya and South Africa. Time to cross the road. And wondering why do zebras, or why do they cross the road? The food or the grass on either side of the road to me looks fine. But further left to the direction they're going, yeah, there's a little swamp area, and maybe they could be going for a drink before they choose where they'll spend the night. You cross. Everybody else is crossing. Why did you stop there? Looks a little young. And when you see small herds of zebras, you'll either see a stallion, one male, with 3-4 females, 3-4 mares with him, and a few youngsters. But then sometimes you get, during migration, all these small herds forming big groups and coming together. And they move. And migration mainly is caused, or they move because of one thing, food. And when it comes to food, they need to keep the numbers together. Keep going, zebras, keep going, keep putting the best feet forward. As we move on, searching for my sausage tree pride, let's go across to South Africa for another predator that seems to be suffering from the heat of the day.
Indeed, David, he is, I'm sure, wishing that there was some rain coming his way to cool him down. At the moment, he's looking about as though he's starting to get a bit twitchy, and I'm hoping that he's going to head up into the tree itself. Now, the reason why he's been a bit twitchy is there was a hyena that walked past way in the distance. Oh, there's a good yawn. Come on, Hosanna, up you go. If he goes up, the light is going to be beautiful. He's looking longingly up at his carcass, isn't he? Almost wishing that he could transport himself up onto the tree. Hosanna, should we set up a pulley system for you that we can just put you on and just pull you up there? Hey? Yes, I think so. He's looking longingly at his piece of meat at the moment. A ladder, you think? No, a ladder still requires effort. I think he needs a little elevator, a mini elevator that he can push the button with his paw, dunk, and then he'll just get in and it'll just take him up to the first floor, which is where his bushbuck is. And then for if there's a predator that comes along, he can have a second floor option that will go right up to the top of the tree. That's what I think he needs, is we need a little leopard elevator for Hosanna on a hot day so that he can get himself up there. But look at that, isn't that cool? Hello, boy. Are you hungry? You see he's looking at his carcass. I think he's going to go up fairly soon. I think he's it's cooled down a lot. So since we've been sitting here even, it's really starting to kind of get a lot more manageable in terms of heat. And with hyenas milling about, I think he's probably going to be persuaded to get up there sooner rather than later. So hopefully that hyena, if it does kind of come a little bit closer, that will definitely push Hosanna deeper or up into the tree and will hopefully get him onto this branch. Now there's a branch that's right above him, and I hope that if he does go, he lies on this particular branch, this one right there. There we go, he's up. Let's have a look if he's going to... Oh, look at that light on him. That is quite spectacular. He's a glowing gold color at the moment. Where are you off to, Hosanna? You're going to come lie this side? Let's see what he gets up to. I'm going to just see... He's just sniffing about here, so I wonder if he's not going to lie down somewhere here where there's a bit more shade. He's kind of going, toilet time, that's why. And he's exactly what he's done. He's been a gentleman and has moved away from his carcass to have a bit of toilet time. Not far, mind you, but a little bit away. And then he's going to probably, I think, go up into the tree. And I'm hoping that he climbs from where we are now, because it will be absolutely beautiful if he does. Look at that, though. Isn't that cool? It's very cool. I know that he's busy doing his thing and going to the toilet, so he's looking good doing it at least, which is... So Denise, difficult to say. I mean, he already has interest in females, but not from a mating point of view. I mean, he just follows them around in case there might be food or... Oh, look at that. A little glint in the eye as well. So he's interested already, but I would say probably within the next year, he'll start to show interest and start to think about it if he can get himself some sort of dominance. So if he can get himself into this area and Tingana doesn't chase him and he can start to scent mark a little bit, then I would imagine that we'll start to see him definitely kind of showing interest in females within the next, I would say probably 6 months to a year. There's a male leopard that's down in the south called the white dam male, and he's mating already, and he's only 3.5, so that would be about 6 months from where Hosanna is now, no, a year from now, basically, for Hosanna. So, it will be interesting. Maybe he'll get lucky and he will be able to do that, and he'll be able to mate. There have been reported cases of males mating with a female while another male is there, and so I wonder if Tingana would be that relaxed with Hosanna to allow that to take place. I'm just going to quickly reposition us slightly, just because the angle that we're at is not quite right. So Seb, just hold on 2 seconds. Just give me 2 seconds, because I'm going to get us into a really nice spot shortly. That's going to be quite low down, and it'll be pretty much face on to Hosanna. Hold on, Seb. How's that, Seb? That should be very nice now. We should have a nice kind of flat sort of feel to the picture, much like we had with our Duiker. So if we get a little bit lower like this, then you can get that kind of feel to it. But he's decided that that's where he's going to lie, and it's quite a welcome if you were a guest that was coming to Juma today, because this is the main road that you come in from when you access this particular area, and so you would have driven right past that as you come along. So that's the main road there, and then it goes down onto quarantine. But look at that. Hello, boy. He's looking so spectacular. Gerald, because a cat that is in the wild doesn't cover it for the simple reason that it's basically trying to conceal the fact that it is a dominant creature in this particular area. I mean, it's not trying to conceal that fact. So it wants other animals to smell it, particularly males and females that defecate on the roads. They're doing that as a clear sign to everybody else that they are the leopard in the area. So that's why they don't cover it at all. As to why they, smaller cats, I suppose, do cover it every now and then. Maybe that's to try and stop bigger cats from kind of tracking them down. But these big cats, they use their defecation and their dung as basically a way, oh, look at that, that's epic, of a way to tell others that they're there and that they are around and that this is their particular area. This is very cool. He's giving a very nice show this afternoon, that's for sure. He's kind of sitting right down low and giving us nice big yawns from time to time, which is absolutely fantastic. So we're getting really spoiled this afternoon, which is wonderful. I always like it when a leopard spoils us and we get really nice kind of a view of them. Monique, he is bulking up. He is a bulky cat. He's always been quite stocky in nature, so he's a bulky boy, and one that is really kind of coming into his own of late. He's a seriously pretty boy, and he's going to get bulkier and bulkier as he gets kind of thicker neck and head area. So he's going to start, really kind of bulking up quite a bit, and I'm going to find that he'll soon start to show that, oh, you're going to catch flies, Hosanna cat. That was cool, wasn't it? It's a shame. The flies are probably annoying him. There's probably quite a few stingless bees that are actually busy kind of going at him at the moment, and the reason why is because he's very close, as we know, to the tent, and there's stingless bees that live in the giraffe skull, and they are basically what is called a sweat bee in West Africa. It's the same kind of thing, and they are attracted to moisture, and so they will be landing around his face while his mouth is open like that, and probably driving him a little bit crazy as he tries to kind of pant and keep cool. And so that's why he's kind of snapping about at the flies that are there. There'll also be a few flies that are on the carcass itself, given that, it's obviously rotting meat on a hot day. Flies will have picked that up and have also gone there to go and lay their eggs and to reproduce. But he's definitely far more alert and awake than he was a while ago. He's kind of seems like he's decided that he's going to start thinking about kind of waking up and deciding whether or not he's actually going to do something for the afternoon. I'm quite interested to see what he actually kind of decides he's going to do. Is he going to go up into the tree? I would imagine with him being so full, he might not, and he might wait until a little bit later and then kind of go up as it cools down into the cover of darkness. Also, where he is here is very, very open, and so that means that you're going to kind of see that, if he goes up into the tree, he can be spotted by many different predators, lions, and maybe even other leopards. What are you doing, Hosanna? Seems like he's catching flies again, so he's kind of chasing them around. Shame, boy, are they irritating you? Look at that. He's a funny cat. Shame. They must be very irritating that he's Rosalind, well, it depends what side of the tracks you're from as to how long your tongue is as a leopard. If you're Hukamuri, then your tongue is abnormally long and looks a bit freakish, to be honest. So Hukamuri probably has one of the longest tongues that I've ever seen in a leopard, and it constantly just hangs out. But it is very long. I mean, they have to be able to groom themselves, so they use their tongue to kind of groom through their paws, to, groom a lot of their coat. And so, again, Hosanna, obviously been quite packed inside there that he needs to now decide to toilet time once again. Shame. Unless, of course, he's got a lot of hair in his dung, and that means that it's kind of congealed together and he's struggling to actually get it out, which does happen sometimes to cats. They can get a little bit on the constipated side, which is not ideal. So maybe that's why he's going to the toilet again. It's very uncommon to see a leopard go to the toilet twice in a row like he just has. But look at that light. Isn't that spectacular? The pity that there is the only stump in this entire open area. Now you see he's covering his up a little bit. You see that? So we were talking about it earlier. Now he's not a particularly dominant male yet, and so you might find that he's putting a bit of soil over that just to make sure that the cats like Tingana and Hukamuri know that he is not really one to worry about and that he's not a huge threat to them just yet. But let's see where he goes from here. He's kind of looking longingly. I think he's going to go up. I think we're going to get a really epic sort of climb up the tree. Let's see. Come on, Hosanna. Don't disappoint me. No. Is he going to go lie in the shade again? So he's looking. I think he's going to go. There we go. So we got him at least going up. Oh, look at that. That light is spectacular. Now he's sitting on the branch that I was hoping. Now I'm going to just try and move, Seb, so that we get a better view. Hold on. So we should get a really, really nice view from over here. It would help if I was actually in the right gear to be able to get up here. Forgot that I actually have to drive a car again. It was quite nice to be driven around for a few days. And now, look at that. There we go. How's that, Seb? No, don't jump up there. Hosanna. He's going to lie on the other branch, though, which is okay. The one below is the one that we wanted him to lie on, but alas, he's decided he's going to choose the top branch at this stage, and he's going to reposition his kill too. There's really not much there. Now, that kill doesn't look like it's from yesterday to me. I suppose it has been very hot, and that would have dried that carcass out quite a bit, but it almost looks a bit jerky biltong-like at the moment. It looks as though it's been completely kind of fed upon. What's also really interesting with this particular carcass, and generally you don't see this, but Seb, if you come down the tree a little bit for me, just briefly, a little bit further down, so down, and then go towards that branch that goes off on the left, you'll notice that right there is the dropping for a bird of prey. So a bird of prey tried to scavenge on this carcass while it was up in the tree. Now, that's not something you see every day. Generally, birds of prey don't scavenge from predators' carcasses in a tree, or leopard carcasses. They'll generally try and kind of put it somewhere, well, they'll try and kind of check it out, and then it becomes too difficult for them to get to. But because of that big open branch, I wonder if maybe a vulture or that Bateleur eagle decided to land there and try and have a little peck, especially because Hosanna was not visible very close by, and so there was obviously a bird that was having a little bit of a feed there as well. But well done, Hosanna. You've now put it in a nice spot. And I'm hoping from here he's going to kind of settle down somewhere. I doubt it. I think he's going to kind of eat and try and finish it up. But I'm hoping that the effort of moving it means that he's just going to take 5 minutes to settle down and lie on one of these beautiful branches, that we can get this golden light on him as he does it. It would be very, very nice if that is the case. I would be most impressed with you. Right, now, while we wait and see whether or not he does decide to settle down and kind of position himself on one of these perfect branches, or if he decides to feed, let's send you back to David up in the Mara.
Well, Hosanna, I think, is coming up as a leopard that will be taking place once we have the Duke Tingana out of the stage. We've seen some of these leopards, as small as they may look, bringing down animals like zebras. And we got what I would call gorgeous light in the Mara Triangle. And not that I haven't shown you zebras today, but just because of the light that I'm having, I just stopped and I thought I should also enjoy watching this common or the plains zebra on the plains of the Mara. Look at the beauty of the sky in the background there with all the clouds. So that area, no sign of rainfall, and you can see those clouds being shown by some sunlight as the sun is setting. But the tranquility here is my biggest joy. It's so quiet, it's so peaceful that you can hear the silence. So that particular zebra tends to concentrate on that termite mound, and if you look on the grass there, it's much greener than the grass surrounding that area, simply because the termite mound have made that particular area, which it's very nutritious. But in the meantime, I think Sydney has an unusual reptile.
You can see now we are right after the winter season. Now we are getting to summer. The snakes are starting to come out. Look at that. So this is a beautiful snake. I love snakes. And it's very much camouflaged. It looks alike with the soil there, right in the hole. Not too sure what kind of snake is this one, but it looks like a spitting cobra. Look at that. Look at that pupil, the eyes, everything looks beautiful. So the snakes got to wait until the winter season has gone past, because they don't convert a lot of dirt into heat energy. Look at that. This is a beautiful snake. It looks very big. This is my first snake this year after the winter season. So the snakes, they can be able to hear, they can pick up the vibration very well. They cannot hear the airborne sound, but they can pick up the information from the air particles with their tongues in and out using the Jacobson organ, which is an organ on top of the roof of the mouth, and they transfer the information to the brain. And after that, they will know the size of their prey or the size of their predator, and they will determine a distance. So at this stage, I can see that the snake is not even bothered. It's very much relaxed and maybe enjoying the sunset at the moment. You can see those scales there. So the snakes, they've got to go through molting. So every season they must have to take the old skin and get the new skin so that they can adapt with the environmental changes. So now that we are after the winter season, it means they're going to have to take off the skin and get the new one. Summer season comes, after summer they're going to do the same. Some of these snakes are very much venomous, and some of them Chris, the spitting cobras, they can be very much long. I'm not too sure in terms of the meters, but they can be long and they can get very thick. If they are eating enough and there are no much predators, no stress, these kind of animals can grow very big and can get very thick. You can see that it's not moving at all. If anything comes there, he's going to catch it very, very easily. But from the hole, maybe he won't be able to look. He's now moving the head a little bit. Maybe he wants to go back or to come out. So he's not very far away from the road. If he's staying there, it means he's used to see the vehicles passing by. So that's why he's not even threatened at all about our presence. And their way is there's even some of the droppings by some of the holes, the droppings that are coming from the mongoose. So the mongoose as well, they have been using these kind of holes. You can see the evidence of their droppings there. So, but I'm sure now they have abandoned these holes because the snake is there, and snakes can also catch those kind of small predators. Unless this snake got in there today waiting for the mongoose to come back. But the mongoose, they kill snakes. These snakes just got to be very careful. Nick, the spitting cobras got a lot of predators. The honey badgers, if he comes here now, it's going to be a big fight. The snake eagles. I have once seen a big fight between a snake eagle and a cobra, and this snake eagle caught the cobra and went up into the air with the cobra and throw it to the bottom. When the cobra hits the ground, the eagle comes back and catch it and fly up and leave it, and when it hits the ground, catch it again, just like that. And that was a very successful method of killing that kind of a dangerous snake. So these kind of birds can swallow these snakes, and they can even eat their venom and swallow their venoms. But if the intestines of the snakes has got holes, those kind of birds, they die because the venom then gets into the body. But if they eat when the intestines don't have any holes, is when there won't be any problems. So in other words, the venom can be ingested. Only if it's injected, it can cause a problem. But you can ingest it if you are healthy and if your stomach does not have any holes by the intestines. So they normally predate small rodents such as the rats. So they like to eat the rats, and they even catch birds. That's why birds, every time when seeing the snakes, you will see they come together and mobilize and vocalize against the snake in the areas. So the eyesight is not that very good compared to their sense of smell. So now let's go back to Hosana while I am slowly making my way back to Tingana.
Well, good luck, Sydney. Hopefully you get to Tingana and that he is being as active as young Hosana is, because you can see Hosana is up in the tree busy feeding at the moment and having a really good time about it. He's got himself a really comfortable spot. We have the most perfect light on him, and, well, he looks very happy with life, doesn't he? He's kind of wedged himself in there, and he's just tucked the bushbuck perfectly underneath his front legs and is now just going to town and kind of getting it. The sort of legs at the moment is mostly what he's feeding off, the shoulder blades, and then going down a little bit along the legs itself. But you can see it's definitely hyenas got hold of it because of the way that poor bushbuck's head has been mangled. Unfortunately, those of you that are a little bit squeamish, probably now is a good time not to be watching what's going on. But you can see the horn sticking out from his elbow there. It's got no face attached or head attached to it. That's what hyenas do when they chomp on a carcass. They'll just sort of chomp that all down. Leopards generally will leave that right to the end and won't be as efficient at breaking down that skull as what a hyena is. So definite signs of hyenas feeding off it is also the way that it's been kind of ribboned up and stripped the way it is also a clear indication that a leopard didn't feed off it. But you can see lots of flies still bugging poor Hosana and giving him a really tough time. They will be all over that meat and giving him a sort of hard go at it. Now, talking about a tough time and things being a little on the tricky side, for those of you that don't know, we have a new thing called Tracking Tuesday that we do on Instagram. So for those of you that follow us on Instagram, it's a nice little quiz about tracks that we find out here. And this week, well, yesterday, there was a picture that was posted, and a lot of you guessed that it was a hyena. Now, it is not a hyena, and I'll show show you the reason why it's not a hyena. It is in fact what the tracks that we saw earlier of a wild dog. Now, the thing with tracks is that hyenas and wild dogs can be a little bit tricky. If you see them in real life, it's a lot easier because hyenas and wild dog are not really the same size. Hyenas have much bigger tracks. But I'll show you quickly kind of how to tell the difference very, very, very easily. Now, the first track I'm going to show you is that of a hyena. Now, this is a hyena track that you see here. So this particular track, you will notice, has very, very distinct features that make it hyena. First of all, we've got this sort of lobe at the back here, this big kind of lobe that comes down, and very definite two lobes that you see. You also see that the track is very wide. There's big toes here with this little banana shape that you get, and very definite claw marks on the end of that. It's also a very big track. You can see by the size of the pen how large that track is. A wild dog track in comparison doesn't quite look like that. Now, I've got to try and find the wild dog picture, so just give me 2 seconds while I find that particular track, because I have a picture of a wild dog track very, very close by, and I just need to find it quickly to show all of you what it looks like. Of course, now that I'm looking for it, I won't find it. I know that it is here somewhere. Give me 2 seconds. There we go. So, Matt Lulling, you say this is very, very interesting. It is very interesting, isn't it? It's always learning how to track is a very difficult thing and can take a little bit of time to kind of learn. So I'm trying to find the track now to show all of you what it looks like, but I'm struggling to actually find it. Now, there we go. Okay, so this is not the exact track that we posted on Instagram, but it gives you an idea. Now, if you have a look at these, the first thing you'll notice compared to that hyena track we saw earlier is just how much more triangular the shape is. All right, so it's a much longer track that you see on a wild dog. It is also much smaller. So my Leatherman is not the size of a pen. So it's much, much smaller. And the biggest and the easiest way to tell wild dog tracks for me is how I always kind of pick it up, is if you come to this track on top here, Seb, it might be a little bit more tricky to make out, but you'll see there's the toes in front with the claws. So they do have claws as well. But if you look at the back of the pad here, you notice that the back of that pad is completely kind of flat. You don't see that, you don't see that big bulbous kind of paw that you see, or lobe that you see on a hyena. It's flattened. It almost looks like a little bit of a rectangle at the back there, and so that's how it's easy to kind of tell the difference between the two. Also, the toe shape, you don't get that same banana effect. You can see the toes are a little bit more rounded and a little bit more splayed out than what you get on a hyena track. So that's just how to do it. So the answer was wild dog, and for those of you that did get it, very well done. Now remember, you can also participate. Next week we will post another photo. We normally do it on a Tuesday, I believe, so Tracking Tuesday, and then you can guess what animal it is on our Instagram platform, and we'll go through the same process next week. And it's always a nice thing to learn with all of you about tracks. It's one of my favorite subjects, and so I quite enjoy it, and I've actually got some really tricky ones that I can add to the collection as we go down the line. Right, now while I've been chatting about this, Hosanna had dropped a leg, which surprises me that we did not see a single hyena run in, because I would have thought with the thud of the leg falling to the ground that many a hyena in the area would have heard it and would have come racing to see what's going on. But alas, he has been allowed to feed in peace and no hyenas have arrived yet, and he's unfortunately now going to start on the next leg that is around and is about. So I'm pretty sure that he'll clean up most of these pretty quickly. It's the back leg that he dropped, and he's now got kind of the two front legs that he's working on as well. But he looks very happy, doesn't he? That's a kind of content face. It's almost like he's half smiling while he's going to town at this carcass. It is interesting to watch him feed as well. I always enjoy watching a leopard kind of go at a carcass, because it really is incredible how they use their different parts of their mouth and their teeth in order to feed. So what you'll see is he first starts by using the power of his whole jaw to grab it, and then using those incredible neck muscles, he'll actually twist it, and that's how he kind of breaks open the carcass a little bit and exposes some of the flesh. Then you'll see he turns his head, and as soon as he turns his head, he's then using those triangular shaped teeth that are on the back or on the sides that are able to saw off little bits and chunks off of that carcass. Once that's done and he's gotten all the big chunks off, then you'll see he'll start to use his tongue more than anything else, and he actually licks the bones. And that rough tongue will get all those little fine bits of meat off, and he almost just strips it off like sandpaper would. It's really a very efficient technique that he's got, and so that's how he kind of goes through the feeding process. If this carcass was still whole, you would find he would have used his little front teeth between his canines first, and those would have been to pluck the carcass and get rid of all the hair, and then he'll start to do what he's doing here and open it out, and then start to use those carnassials on the side of his mouth. So pretty interesting to watch leopards, or cats in general, feed. It's amazing how they almost do it with surgical laser-like precision as they go through this. I can promise you now, if you had to try and kind of strip away meat the way that they do, it would be a very, very tough thing to be able to get it as clean as what they can when they're really kind of doing it properly. So he's learned the technique very well, and obviously a lot of it is instinct, and seems to be able to feed pretty well. One thing that Hosanna is good at is eating, and that's what's been shown over the last few months since his return. He really has made it very, very kind of clear that he likes a good meal, does little Hosanna, who is not so little anymore. Right, now, from one predator that is sitting feeding in a tree, being quite active, let's send you back across to Sydney with another predator that is doing its best to not be seen.
You can see now that the snake is very much relaxed, and we don't want to disturb the snake too much. All we are going to do now is we are going to leave him here so that he can carry on with what he was looking for. But I can guarantee you he was not hunting at all. He was just relaxed, enjoying the sun. And now that the sun is disappearing, he might come out for hunting, or else maybe the stomach is full. Who knows? We're not too sure. So I'm just going to now leave and go back to Tingana so that we can see how Tingana is going to again eat his last meal from the warthog. So it's a very nice cooling time of the day now. I can see the sun is going to set very shortly. You can see, look at that. This is a very, very, very beautiful sunset. As I can see that just from my naked eyes, without even using the shades, I can see that. Look at that. Look at the reflection of the sun by the sky, nice and pink. This is the sunset of Juma. It's no longer the sunset of Southern Africa. Look at that. So it's like the tree is holding the sun. Thank you very much for that, Craig. Janine, I am still very new here in Juma, and this is my first snake here. So the common snakes that are seen here, they are cobras and mambas. So I was very lucky to see this snake, although it was not an easy spot, as it was the way we saw it. He was inside the hole, he was not out. So now let's go back to Tingana. So during this time of the day is when some other cats are going to become active. Maybe we might come across other interesting cats. We haven't seen Thandi and Tlalamba for a long time as well. So we are going to drive in the middle of the reserve where we might hit two birds with one stone. The update on Thandi and Tlalamba is something that I saw 2 days ago in the area here where I am. I saw some tracks, fresh tracks of Thandi and Tlalamba, but not a sighting, and I haven't heard any updates. Nobody saw them for the past few days. So now let's see the sunset of the Maasai Mara. David is driving towards the sunset. That sighting is guaranteed.
Well, for now I've given up the search for the sausage trip ride, but not once I have given up, looking for a particular species of animal, and then I at one point get to it before we finish the show. So I have mentally given up, but I'll not be surprised to see something on the way. It's getting a bit dark now at the moment, So be looking for any animal that you see pretty close to where we are. I haven't seen the nocturnal animals, as we call them, the scrub hares, the nightjars, or animals that tend to be more active like this time around. Owls, for example, that will be coming out now, because most of the birds will be fading out and going to their nests or their home to spend the night until tomorrow during another daybreak. I put on my sweater, it's getting a bit chilly. Manu has his jacket on. Manu, where is that piece of stick you're chewing before? Do you have it anywhere? That promised earlier might be. You remember when we were starting the show? I have to hold it carefully because I don't want Manu fighting me. And I was talking to Manu when Manu was murmuring, you couldn't talk. And I said, I'll tell you why. Manu has been chewing this, and this is a toothbrush. Now, this toothbrush is very special because once you cut a small branch of it or twig from the tree, then you have to chew this part, to make it more fine and to form some very nice bristles. And that's what toothbrush is. Now, it comes from a very special tree because when you chew it, there's a particular sap that comes out, which is a bit bitter, not very bitter, a bit hot. And that sap acts like antiseptic. So I'm sure when Steve will come around and he has his Monday, medicinal Mondays, unlike the South Africa, he does medicinal Mondays. Here we are not allowed to get out of the car. But I'll want to introduce Steve to this and then he can talk to more about it. It comes from a tree that we call the Kenyan greenheart or the Kenyan greenheart. And I'm sure if all of you forget that, I'm going to give you a much simpler name. You can call that tree, which I might show you tomorrow. If you forget the Kenyan greenheart tree, you can call it Wabugia ugandensis. Manu, that sounds simpler? Can you say that, Manu?
Wabugia ugandensis.
Fantastic. So a simpler tree for the Kenya greenheart is Wabugia ugandensis. Give that, and we'll show you the tree possibly tomorrow with better lighting. Alrighty. Okay, nocturnal animals will come. Arizona lady, Jumbo, where have you been? And I do not know whether you have any particular words in Swahili, Arizona lady, you'd want to know. And if there isn't, I'm gonna think of one for you. And let me see, because I'm thinking of dinner now, Arizona lady. And when we think of food, well, it's not early, we normally eat about 7 o'clock. It's another, 20 minutes or another 1 hour from now. When we think of food, Arizona lady, we say chakula. Chakula, and chakula, Arizona lady, means food. And not sure I got an eland here, and Arizona lady maybe always very shy animals here, very shy antelopes. Let me see if we can get a little closer. Manu, tell me when you can stop for this antelopes here. They're always very shy. I do not know for what reason. They're huge antelopes, but they'll never give you a chance to shoot. Manu, do you think you can get them, or is it too dark? Okay. Arizona lady, if you're still there, I'm going to show you an animal. I already gave you one word for the day, which was food, which translates to chakula. And you got elands there. Earlier on the drive, I was talking when the wildebeest and the zebras do migrate, they are also accompanied by these huge antelopes that we call elands, which happen to be the largest antelopes in the world. And as big as they are, from a standing point, they can jump 4 meters high. Will you imagine that? This is if maybe they have a concern of a snake, like what Sidney had. I don't know what type of snake Sidney saw. or should they just get skittish and they're scared by something, they can jump that high. When they age a little bit, the males tend to gray, just like human beings, how we gray, the males tend to gray. And if you hear them walking close to you, you'd hear their knees having like a click sound. Something like that. And I remember when I was in college, we had our final exam, and our lecturer was playing us the sound of clicking knees of the elands, and the question was identify the following sound. So you have to be out in the bush and to hear them walk, and you can hear the click on the knees, just like we human beings when you get a bit old. When you sit down and you're raising up, you'll hear like a clicking sound on your knees. We've got areas, not this part of the Mara, but outside the game park, where people nowadays are sourcing milk from elands, and they think that eland's milk is more nutritious than cow milk, especially for young children. There's some ladies who will have complications, maybe not, they're not able to breastfeed their babies, and the doctors have recommended, if with a choice of cattle milk and eland milk, they can give them eland's milk. And the final control says that's very interesting. And not within the game reserve, because we need to take care of the elands, but certain areas where people have been able to domesticate them. That reminds me of buffaloes in India, like the Indian buffalo, and many people there in India have used buffalo milk for ages and ages. Not sure which milk is better between the Indian buffalo and the cow milk. Proud cat mama, always good to hear your name. And the lifespan of an eland, is it 18 years? Just give me a few seconds, proud cat mama, and I'm going to go through my notes and I'll let you know in a few minutes. Alrighty, as you enjoy that view there, I hope you've been well, proud cat mama. I'm going to be getting it. We've got so many animals here just to keep their ages through, but I was just getting about 18, 20. But I should be able to do that once you check on my notes. All right, Eland, where are you today? I'm sure I've had it somewhere, or that maybe it could be hiding. And what did I say? I said 18. Did I guess, or did I know what I was saying? Yes, proud cat mama, I think I was right. I said about 18 years. I was a bit shy, not knowing whether I was right. Yes, proud cat mama, elands live for about 18 years. Way back when we were small little boys in the village, and we could go hunting. Boys be boys, proud cat mama. Of all the animals we used to hunt as small boys, to me, eland had the best meat. We don't do it anymore. We want these animals to be out there for you. But I think of all the animals you'd hunt, zebras, wildebeest, small little game, I'm talking about way back when I was this big, eland to me was most yummy meat. Alrighty, we're going to be looking for any nocturnal animals now. I'm going to be putting my light on. I don't drive over spiders or snakes or night jars that could be on the road or a scrub hare. I would feel guilty if I do that. So now I got my lights on. It's getting a little dark. Seeing a very huge bull. Not sure whether Manu will like it because of the distance and the kind of light we'll have. Manu, you'll give me your word whether you think it's worth it. Is it worth it? Okay. Manu thinks we may have to switch to IR to see it. Just give it a little shot and see what you see before we switch off to IR. It's huge. There's a huge bull there. Sorry, the lighting is not the best, but I'm sure Manu might be doing some infrared shortly. But look at how majestic either way he is. Manu, we haven't seen a an elephant the whole day, have we? Yeah, I mean, it's the first elephant we're seeing, and how nice to see a big boy on his own. Nothing out of the ordinary to see bulls on their own, like this time around. Unless they're mating, you'll see them together with the females. He'll try and uproot some grass or some plant where he is. If it doesn't come out, he'll give it a small little kick, then straight to the mouth. Huge tusks he's got. Some tear on the right ear. Not a lot of flapping on the ears because they're already cool now. If it was much early in the day, in the afternoon, you could see every few seconds those ears flapping, just to keep him cool. But he's just quiet, enjoying good temperatures. No reason to spend so much energy flapping his ears. I haven't seen any other elk close to him, and he looks to me like a very good solid bull by size. Hello, Ellie. I don't know, being a male or big bull elephant is a lonely life to be in. Unless, of course, when you're mating and then you rejoin the herd. I would think I would prefer to be a female and have company throughout my life. If any breeding or any herd of elephants here that could have females in estrus, I think they would easily choose this one as a candidate. Size, the massive, tusks he got. As a female, I would think it could be easy to pick him up, and the female will be guaranteed of nice offsprings. Here in the wilderness, females have always been known to decide which males to mate with. You have seen once in a while when males just come and join, for example, the female or the breeding herd or herd of elephants, or with females, the female will tend to run away, even if she's in heat and maybe not very comfortable with the male. He tends to run away. Rumi, yes, I agree with you. He is amazing, or rather, sorry, being a female is amazing. That sounds good. Manu, what do you think? When it comes to the elephant world, would you want to be a female or a male? Yes, so Rumi, you're not alone. Me, female. Manu also, who is running the camera and showing you that beautiful photographs, he says he'd also want to be a female. I think they're a lot easier. Staying in groups, staying in numbers, having company to play with, to chat with. The guy looks a bit lonely. As much as he is having his good time and eating, it's a bit lonely to be on your own, as much as he would not have any concern of any predator at the moment where he is. I haven't seen elephants being worried of any animal here in the wilderness. Most of the time spending eating, just to keep that body frame there, they need to have lots of food. Not surprising, spending sometimes 16, 17, 18 hours in a day feeding and feeding non-stop. They might have a little short breaks to have a little drink, but the better part of the day, most ellies, be they females or youngsters, they'll spend eating. There must be something he is enjoying at that point, not necessarily grass. And I think we got a predator who is thirsty.
You can see that the meat this Tingana had from the warthog has been very much hard and very much dry. You can see he's now by the water hole in order to get something. So he's now drinking from here. I'm sure he's going to go back to the carcass and carry on feeding. It's not a very long distance from where the carcass is and the treehouse dam. So you can see now the water here by the treehouse dam is getting lower and lower every day. So it means after this, he must have to now depend on the other water holes such as Galago Pen and the Vulture Pen area. It has been very hot for him. We saw him earlier, he was resting. So now I think it's a good idea that he can come here and have something to drink. Sorry, this is beautiful. Look at his positioning and the tail. It looks like a snake, a spotted snake. You can see that he's very observant. He's listening and drinking. Everything is happening at the same time. So after drinking here, I'm sure the stomach is going to look very big. So the cats, these days I've seen that they are getting very much water dependent due to this kind of hot weather. But mostly they do get quite a lot of moisture from what they eat. So that's why when catching something, they prefer to drink the intestines, the stomach juice from the intestines. The stomach juice helps them to give them quite a lot of moisture and water. So there's some other vehicles right here. You can see. So now let's go back to Hosana, who has just dropped his kill.
Unfortunately, Hosanna has dropped his entire carcass out of the tree, which obviously made a big thump, and so now he's looking a bit panicked in case any hyenas come their way. So far nothing has come, and he's now, I think, going to try and tuck in to food. If no hyena rocked up with that thump, then there's none that are too close, because it came crashing down with a serious amount of noise. Yes, you dropped your whole kill, you silly boy. Luckily there's no hyenas around, otherwise he would have lost it. But I'm surprised, because we saw a hyena earlier, and the way that carcass hit the ground, it must have made a serious noise. Now, every now and then he keeps looking towards the west at the moment, and I thought for a second the way he kind of twitched that maybe something was around, but it doesn't seem like it. Seems like he's okay, and just kind of licking his chops. He's had a good feed at least up there, and you can see he's kind of looking around, and that carcass does not look nice, does it? It looks rather like it's kind of dry, rotten, and covered in flies. I was saying earlier, and it goes up, but there really is a lot there, and he's being constantly bugged by them. But it's going to be interesting. I think he's going to keep it down on the ground for a little bit and just kind of get his energy back a little bit and catch his breath from running down the tree quickly. And once he's kind of sorted that out, then you're going to find he'll probably put it back up once again. It'll be nice to watch him take it up, because even though it's not a very heavy carcass now, a lot's been eaten, it's still an awkward carcass. There's a lot of dangling legs and bits of horn and all kinds of things that can catch, and so watching a leopard take something like a bushbuck up a tree is always fascinating to watch. Now you can see, even though that animal has been pretty much stripped and there's not really much meat on it, it's still a rather large carcass from end to tail. Now let's see, is he going to grab it from the bottom and pick it up and take it? Looks like he's going to go up. Let's see. There we go. Teddy, indeed, he does not have a carcass pillow now, unfortunately for him. He's going to have very little of his carcass left at this rate. I think the poor hyenas actually stole most of it from him, unfortunately, so he doesn't have much of a carcass pillow at all. But I suppose he could use it on the ground, couldn't he? I mean, I suppose a ground pillow could also work. I would imagine a ground pillow might work. He's dragged it very close to the tree now, so that he just has to basically pick it up and just take it straight up into the tree itself. He doesn't have to worry too much. If hyenas come, he can just grab it and then up into the tree without too much hesitation, which will be nice and easy for him. And there he goes. Are you going to go up into the tree, Hosanna? No, he's just looking around, just checking, making sure nobody's come while he's been dragging it. It's almost like he's playing with this carcass to a degree as well, which is quite interesting. Now look at how he's watching. As soon as there's a francolin that makes a bit of noise, he's looking very kind of alert and checking in every direction. The one nice thing is that it's very clear here, so there's a nice opening, so he'll be able to see anything coming fairly quickly. Oh, bless you, Hosanna. But he won't have to worry too much about oncoming animals catching him by surprise. It's fairly kind of clear, and he'll be able to see anything that comes his way. But isn't that beautiful? He really is a good-looking leopard. He, I think, has grown a little bit now that we've kind of seen him going up and down, but not too much. He's definitely not kind of hugely bigger, but he's definitely bigger than what he was a few weeks ago when he first arrived back on the scene. When all those kind of weeks ago, it was been a long time now since he kind of came back to this area, and so it's always nice to kind of have him. What are you doing, Hosanna? It almost seems like he's playing with it. You can see, just looking around again just to make sure, and I'm surprised that he's dragged it further away from the tree. So nonsensical, that's obviously very dependent on the leopards itself, so the bigger the leopard, generally the more weight it can lift and the more powerful it is. And so you take somebody like Anderson as opposed to a leopard like Hosanna. Anderson should be able to lift a lot more than what Hosanna can. Also, age will play a role. So an older male will start to get a little bit more kind of slower and weaker than maybe a male in his prime that's 7 or 8 years old. So it depends, but I can tell you that I've seen them lift fairly large carcasses. I've seen a male leopard take an adult female kudu, which is, I mean, that's a good, I would say, 400 pounds at least. Well, maybe not quite 400 pounds, maybe it's around there. So let's say 350, call it, plus their own body weight up into a tree. So that gives you an idea of how strong they can be. Even Anderson has taken baby giraffe, which will probably weigh pretty much close to that as well. So they are very, very powerful animals. I mean, that would be the real upper limit, and it's not something that they can do very easily. Generally, though, they manage quite fine. A big male leopard will take a fully grown impala male, which is close to 200 pounds, and put that up into a tree very, very quickly. So, you know, it's amazing the amount of strength that these guys have. And like I say, it's not only, you know, the carcass that they take up, it's also, you know, their own body weight as well. But look at all the flies that have come up now that he kind of let the carcass settle and he's moving it now. Lots and lots of flies all over him. Amazing. Right, now, out of all of this and kind of Hosanna playing around with his carcass and moving about, it seems as though Tingana is still trying to quench his thirst after a very hot day.
Hosanna is still negotiating for his kill back into a tree. That side here, I have got Tingana, who is now still busy quenching his thirst. You can see that the stomach is growing very, very, very big now. He has been drinking all along non-stop. Look at that. So this cat has been so very thirsty. It has been hot for him. So all I want to see now is him standing so that I can see the size of the stomach. He's just drinking non-stop. Safari live rules, it takes time before this animal starts to lose their teeth, but as they are aging, that is when they start breaking the teeth, losing the teeth, and once that happens, it means now it will be difficult for them to eat the meat, and that is what normally affects their lifespan. Look at that stomach, looks very big. So there is another vehicle here. I'm not alone at the sighting. Don't get surprised. Some other people are also shining some of the spotlights and the cameras. So now let's go back to my colleague.
Well, unfortunately, Hosanna missed out. The hyena has come out of nowhere, and Hosanna just didn't have time to get it up into the tree. He hesitated for a second too long, and the hyena came bounding in and has just pushed him off straight away. That hyena didn't think twice about trying to get rid of Hosanna, and it seems like maybe it's one of the hyenas that maybe fed on this carcass last night. You can see it's got a bit of a rounding in its belly, and it's going to just pick that up and effortlessly drag it off. And it's giving Hosanna a bit of a stare over its shoulder. Look at that though, isn't that power amazing? Now, I wonder where it's going to drag it to. It looks very interesting that it's kind of going that way, but it's very, very kind of cool to see it going off into the sunset, isn't it? That's amazing. What a beautiful evening we've had as well. We've got this beautiful kind of wintry colours that have come down, and poor Hosanna has just been robbed of his carcass. I'm sorry, boy. He's lying behind us at the moment, just watching the hyena feeding off the remains of it. But to be fair, there's not really much left there for Hosanna anyway. There's a few legs that he could have eaten, and maybe a bit of the ribs, but there really wasn't that much meat, and so he hasn't lost all that much, and he at least had a good feed during the course of today and this morning, so he'll be alright, and that hyena will drag that off and into the distance, and will continue to feed on it a little further away, and poor Hosanna is going to be left without it. I'll try and kind of roll backwards so that we can see Hosanna as well. Look at that sky though, isn't that beautiful? It's a very, very, very pretty sky. Now we're just going to try and go back. So Roxy, you say, Hosanna, please make good choices. Well, yes, it would be nice if our little boy made good choices, but he has to learn somehow, and this is how he learns, is by basically, being robbed every now and then. Will make him, if he drops a carcass, put it straight back up into a tree and not be a clown and play around with his food. There is still a big chunk that's lying under the tree that he can maybe go and grab, but he doesn't look too interested in getting it back, does he? There, just on that section there. So there's a bit of the carcass lying there that he could potentially go and feed off. I think it's just the scapula or the shoulder blade that's lying there, so I don't think that's really going to be too yummy. Right, but there we go, look at that. Now, I wonder if this hyena is going to take this carcass and drag it. Now, the reason why I say that is because Emma is telling me that there is a hyena that is swimming at the pan in front of the dam. So is that on the dam cam, Emma? It must be, because you're seeing it. And I wonder if this hyena will drag that carcass there. They sometimes do this. They drag dry carcasses into the pans, and it just kind of softens everything up and makes it easier. You'd see it a lot when they have things like hippos or elephant. They'll drag not only bones and things, but they sometimes drag the skin itself, and it actually helps with just softening everything and being able to eat it a little bit easier, as well as it just kind of hides it away so that they can come and get it a little bit later. Once again, it's almost like storing bits of meat around the area, which is quite interesting. But Hosanna is going to do the leopard thing that they always do, and he's going to just groom himself now and make sure that he is as clean as a little whistle, and make sure that he's got a lot of kind of blood and sand and dirt and everything that is on his fur that is gone and taken care of. He doesn't want all of that on it and caking and drying out, so you'll find he's going to groom himself very, very well, get rid of all of that, and then probably saunter off and, much like Tingana, go and have a drink. I wouldn't be surprised if he wanders down either to the pan or maybe to Gallagher pan, one of the two of them. It's about that kind of behavior that you see from a leopard at this time of the day. Once they've fed, they often will wander off and go and have a bit of a drink, especially after a hot day like we've had, and we saw how long Tingana drank for. I wouldn't be surprised if little Hosanna does the same. But first, one needs to make sure that they are clean and get rid of all the blood. So, Patty, they are ambidextrous. No, I honestly don't know whether they are left or right-handed. I would imagine that they, at the end of the day, need to use both paws equally as well, but you'll find that sometimes they favor certain paws when being aggressive towards another predator or something like that, but I don't think it's nearly as important as it is in human life. It's not like they use hands like we do. They'll use both paws to grab and grip and pull down animals, and it all just depends on their stride at the time and those kind of things. So, they really are ambidextrous is probably the correct answer for it. They can use any paw that they want. I know there was some studies that were done on whether or not cats or dogs do have a paw preference and are right or left, but to be honest, I don't think there really is much difference. I reckon these animals, they use whichever one is easier to actually get to whatever they need to be doing. So whether that be swatting or pulling down an animal or holding onto an animal while they feed, they'll use either one. You see them doing it regularly with both paws, so they're well trained on both sides. They're not like Rafael Nadal, who's got one big arm and one small arm. They have equally sized front paws and back legs. When it comes to kind of exercise, they exercise both of them. So Now, you'll find that the picture is going to go black and white. It's starting to get very dark here, so we're going to just quickly switch to infrared, and so there will be a change in the picture color. There we go. Just much easier for the camera to see in infrared. It's obviously quite difficult at this time of the day. We're losing light quite quickly at the moment, and so that just helps to be able to actually see. You can see a much cleaner picture when we go into our infrared, but very, very cool to see that he's just going through his claws and his kind of paws just to make sure everything is clean. So, Mario, yes, I mean, I don't know if they're afraid, but they're respectful of hyenas instinctively. They know hyenas are dangerous. So when they're tiny little cubs, remember that that's probably one of the biggest threats that they can face. And so mom will be very defensive of them around hyenas, and they learn that from their mother, that this is an animal that they need to be very careful of. And so they kind of figure that out, and then they see mom evading hyenas by going up trees, and so they do the same, and so they become very respectful of hyenas, and they know that a hyena can be a threat. Now, what happened just now with Hosanna was quite interesting. He saw that hyena coming from quite far, and you could see in his mind he went through kind of two sort of scenarios. He wanted to grab the carcass and run to the tree, and I think he realized that he was never going to make it up into the tree in time without that hyena being able to drag the carcass and potentially then pulling him down and him falling and hurting himself. And so what he did then is, he tried to just kind of brave up to the hyena and charge at it. But the hyena is obviously one that has dealt with Leopard before, and maybe even with Hosanna, and knows that he can just run in and chase Hosanna off. And so ran in and just kind of pushed Hosanna away, and he knew then it's better part of this is to not fight with the hyena. There's a risk involved is too high. He can obviously get another carcass again, but if he breaks a leg or he gets bitten very badly or mauled, that can be the end of him. So leopards generally are quite clever. They know that a hyena is not something to play around with. Generally they try and kind of just get out the way. They know that a carcass is not worth the risk in terms of being bitten and the rest. He's watching that hyena. I can hear the hyena still feeding in the thickets off to our right-hand side at the moment. So he's just watching and listening, and maybe he'll do what he did last night and wait for that hyena to have its fill and then try go back and kind of eke out a few of the bones and things and recover some of the carcass. But I don't think there really is enough of that carcass to really make Hosanna too kind of perturbed by what just happened. And, he had a good feed, like I say, this morning and this afternoon, so the fact that he lost it is really not that big of a deal. Right, let's see if Hosanna decides whether or not he wants to go and have a little bit of a drink. In the meantime, though, let's send you back to Tingana, who's stopped having a drink now, and I wonder where he's off to.
I can see now Tingana is just very relaxed, but it's a pity that Hosanna lost his kill to the hyenas, which is not bad, as there is quite a very strong dependency between the hyenas and these big predators in the reserve. So now I can see that Tingana, shortly after drinking, he doesn't have much to do. He's just very much relaxed now, waiting for the digestive system to eat all the food he ate this morning, and also for the body to absorb too much water he had earlier on. So there was a hyena earlier on passing by there. He was checking. Look at that. He looks very healthy and very big. He's not looking old anymore. You can see now that he is looking very healthy and very big. Now the leopards don't really eat grass for the diet. They do eat grass when having problems with the internal parasites. Not only the leopards, dogs and cats, when they've got problems with the endoparasites, the internal parasites such as tapeworms, they've got to eat green grass. The green grass helps them in order to wash away the tapeworms. So I don't think at this stage, if any other small prey comes here, Tingana won't be able to take any action. I can see how their bellies are full, and the weight of this animal at the moment is going to restrict him from going too fast. So the kind of predators like this, they are just opportunistic, and they just kill anything coming their way. Doesn't matter they've got a kill already. They can take something now. So when they are about 2.5, when about 18 to 22 months, that is when you will see that the bird is fully grown. But for them to be fully grown, in order to participate on mating activities, they're gonna have to be at least older than 4 years. So now I have got one of the hyenas that I want to show you. He's now having some bath next to me here by the tree house dam. So this is a lovely sighting. This hyena is just having some bath here now. Just decided to come alone for... this is phenomenal. Look at that. He's just by himself there, right inside the water. So I have seen them doing this before, but it was my first time here in Juma, because these kind of animals, they don't just do this during the day. They come out at night and also sometimes early mornings. Look at that. So that's why the hyenas here in Juma, they don't have a bad smell, because they prefer to come and clean themselves. Look at that. So these hyenas are feeding mostly on fresh meat, because these big predators are dropping their fresh carcasses to the ground and they catch and eat. It seems like these hyenas has got some other members nearby, because he's checking every time. Look at that. And this is beautiful. So now let's go to Tristan, who's got something interesting.
Indeed, the hyena has, ran off with a piece, and Hosanna came in to try and get a piece back, and, he got chased once again. The hyena quickly ran in and stole it, so the hyena's got two bits there, and it doesn't actually know which one it wants to carry at this stage, so it's trying to carry both. And Hosanna's just playing the patience game. He kind of sneaks in when the hyena's not looking. He's off to the left at the moment, just hidden by a little bush, so we should see him. So he's just somewhere over there is where he's hiding. There you go, you should see his eyes. There he is. So I think what he's trying to do is he's waiting for this hyena to basically leave, and as soon as the hyena leaves, then he's able to kind of run in and try and steal a little bit of it back and try and get a little bit of the carcass. Now let's see if he's going to make his way forward. Yep, there he comes. So slowly slinking forward. The hyena's moving off now quite far, so if this is his opportunity, if he wants to grab it and try and get up into a tree, it's probably his best chance, because if he tries to feed while he's on the ground, that hyena's going to come in and chase him once again. There he comes, slowly edging forward. The hyena's quite far now. I'd say the hyena's about maybe 30 meters, 40 meters from where he is now, and so he's got a chance to maybe just try and sneak in here, although it looks like he's going to follow the hyena rather. Hosanna, there's a piece that is right here, buddy. No, he wants to follow the hyena rather. See, he's looking in the direction of the hyena at the moment. Hosanna, come here. I'm sure stopped. I wonder if the hyena will come and chase him again. It'll be interesting to see. And he's just looking. Oh, there's a piece for you. Yeah, here comes the hyena, just to the right, Seb. There it comes. It's come bounding in as hyenas do. Now let's see if it's going to chase him. Now it's coming back to where I said there might be another piece. Hosanna's just hiding in the bush at the moment. There's the other piece, and off he goes with that. So that's both pieces hyena has gotten. And Hosanna, I'm afraid you're too slow, boy. You need to be quicker than that if you are to get any food. So unfortunately for him for now, he's going to have to wait until that hyena tries to drift away with both pieces once again. I want to just try and move a little bit further forward, just to try and see if I can get both of them in the shot, because it seems like Hosanna is just behind this bush. So I think if we get a different angle, we might actually get this right. It should be, I thought there was a third piece that might be lying actually here. We could get a nice kind of shot of both of them. The hyena's just moving off, and Hosanna's between us and the hyena, kind of in that direction, just kind of watching what's going on. So he is, where's the hyena? Somewhere in that area. No, but there's Hosanna. So where's the hyena gone? The hyena was there somewhere. Maybe it's drifted off a little bit. It was kind of between Hosanna's obviously gotten very dark now, and so while the infrared light sees pretty well, we obviously can't see much at all. It's between us and the hyena, so I don't know where it's gone. I can hear it chomping, and so it makes it a little bit more tricky in order to find them. But I think Hosanna's going to be a patient cat and hope that this hyena just kind of dismembers his carcass too much that it can't keep up with all the little pieces that are lying about, and he can then at least get another one and kind of try and trot off with it. But he was a bit slow. If he had been a bit quicker, I reckon he could have got it right and maybe could have picked up a piece and got into a tree with it. But he was unfortunately a little on the slow side. And I suppose if you're fat and full and hot and tired, then it makes it a little bit tricky to be fleet of foot and to try and get towards a tree and get out of the way of those gnashing jaws of a hyena. Just trying to listen to hear if I can hear the crunching of the bones. But it's very, very quiet now, so I wonder if that hyena didn't drag that carcass further away. I would imagine if the hyena did drag it further away, Hosanna himself would have gotten up and moved as well and just kind of followed the trail. I'm still sure that there's a piece that's lying off to my right-hand side, so I actually want to use my spotlight quickly and just have a little quick look. We're not going to shine on Hosanna or the hyena, but I thought that there was a piece that was here somewhere. Maybe a leg or something that was hidden in this grass. Because this is where the hyena was originally and where it looked like it dropped something. But I don't see anything there. It's obviously got very difficult because it's not going to shine under light. I just thought maybe I'd be able to spot it. But I don't see anything, unfortunately. Just Hosanna and a hyena that has thieved him of his kill. Poor Hosanna. He's had a tough week by the sounds of things. Hokomori stole a kill from him. Hyenas have stolen a kill as well, so he's had a bit of a tough time, but that's okay. He'll be all right. It's all good learning curve for him, and he'll get valuable experience from all of this. Right, now from a naughty hyena that has just stolen Hosanna's kill to one that is having a lot of fun by the sounds of things, having a bit of a swim.
Look at this hyena. This hyena looks like a honey badger. The colors. It's a mud hyena. So you can see now that he's done with cooling the temperature. Maybe he's belonging to the nearest den, which is not very far away from here where we are. Maybe it's one of those members. As I can see now that the direction this hyena is heading is towards the den. The new discovery, the den that has been discovered about a few weeks ago here in Juma. Okay, now this hyena is disappearing. Let me see if I can find you any other interesting animals. So this hyena is the last animal now to come and drink here. So now let's go back to the Maasai Mara. David is also looking for something interesting.
How nice to have all leopards today. Hosanna at Tingana. Still on the road, but we've been lucky to see one scrub hare. We have seen one nightjar and one water thickening. That's it we have seen on the road. It has become so dark here. I was just thinking I'll stop here for like 2 seconds and see whether we can hear anything or see anything if we switch off the car and switch off the light, and then you tell me whether you can even see me or Manu can get anything apart from the darkness. Or we can see the flying either bats or nightjars. We hear those crickets in the background. You didn't catch up with that, man, whatever it was. Initially, the moth. Well, that's the beauty of the darkness of where we are. It's pitch black, totally black. Only Manu has to leave one light on for my face to appear on the camera. Otherwise, it could be a bit darker than it is now. Alrighty. So that's That's the darkness we are enjoying, and we'll now move on, put on my light. We might be lucky to see another scrub here and show on the screen, or even maybe an edger. Okay, moving on. Flies, moths is good time now for them to come out. They are more nocturnal if you compare moths to butterflies. Nightjars, especially the mountain nightjar, we'll see them on the road like this. But I think Tristan has more entertaining sighting than the darkness here.
Well, we do. Another hyena has arrived. There's the carcass there that she's just picked up, which is exactly where I was shining earlier. So Hosanna missed that, but that was where I thought there was a piece. So that hyena has just picked it up, and the other hyena that Sydney had with him that was swimming has also arrived here. So where that hyena is behind that bush, they had a little bit of a clash. Poor Hosanna got chased off once again in the kind of chaos that two of the two hyenas. Now I'm just going to try and move a little bit, Seb, so that we can try and just check on. Oh, you got both of them. There's the other one now, obviously walking away. Of course it is. So we're going to try and just reposition. Hosanna's just on our left-hand side. No doubt he'll come in and follow what's going on fairly shortly. Just don't want to drive too close to him in case he gets a bit of a spook. But we'll follow the hyenas for a bit because they seem to be having a good time of it and finding at least decent parts of the meal. But Hosanna really did miss a trick. There was a nice piece of the carcass that was right there waiting for him to our right. Is there another one that's moving off to our right, or is this the same one? There goes one there. It's just difficult to kind of keep track of where everybody is at the moment. Lots and lots of hyenas, it seems like. I wonder if also now, with a little bit of a giggle that they had and a bit of a call when the two of them met, if that's not going to attract all of the members into this area. We might find the ones from the den heading in this direction, but definitely the one that was swimming also arrived here. So that's the original one that we had by the looks of things. And the one that was swimming should have walked somewhere to our left. Now, if it is Corky, I don't know who was swimming. I didn't get a good look at this one that arrived, but definitely was all wet. But if it was the one that's swimming and it was Corky, then I wouldn't be surprised if she picks up some of it and takes it. Oh, there she is. I've spotted her now. Oh, it looks like her. I'm not sure if it is Corky, but Pretty was swimming. Okay, so Pretty is also one of the higher ranking females. So Corky is one and Pretty the other one, and Corky is the one that's got the little cub, which is super exciting because we've been saying for a while that either they were pregnant or had a den, and finally we've managed to find a den again on Juma, which is super good news. It's such a nice thing to have, and looking forward to actually spending time at the hyena den again. But you'll find that Pretty and Corky, if, like I say, it is Corky that is here, she'll feed. She's got to go and suckle. The cubs are probably a little bit too young to cub. I believe there's just the one to eat meat just yet. But you might find she just takes it with her and has a bit of a snack there. But I would be surprised if she did that. I think she'll just hoover this down and then provide decent nutrient-rich milk for that little one. I'm interested to know how old it is as well. I briefly saw a post about it. So I haven't actually had time to catch up with everything. But it seems as though, it's just the one and it looks quite small, so I'm quite intrigued to know who exactly now, or how many and how old they actually are. It can't be too old. We know that they were around the sort of TV show time, which was, I suppose, already over a month ago, that they were showing signs of if not having them, at least looking like they were about to have them. So we know that it's around that kind of period that they must be. So I suppose a month old, could be 3 weeks. It would be very, very interesting to know. But anyway, either way, these hyenas are quite happy right now, and they found themselves a meal. So James, I would imagine yes that they do. I personally haven't seen them hunting here on Juma for themselves, but I would imagine that they do. Hyenas can find food a lot more than what you think, and also remember, we don't follow them nearly enough to know if they're hunting a lot. We spend a lot of time with them, yes, but we really don't get to spend nearly enough time with them during the night to know if they're hunting for themselves. They always look full and healthy, and they can't be stealing all the time, so I think they probably do, and they probably do it quite well. Most hyenas in the Sabi Sands can hunt. I've seen it a few times where they'll hunt not only things like buffalo, but also bushbuck, nyala, kudu, those kind of things as well. So it's obviously a bit of a kind of tricky thing for them, and it's much easier for them to be able to start kind of going after carcasses and scavenging than it is to actually sort of go and try and hunt for yourself. But there's not always a carcass around for them to scavenge, and so you'll find that they will kind of go and hunt for themselves and find food. So I would imagine, yes, that they do. It'll be interesting though, because the Juma clan is completely different to what it used to be in many respects. It doesn't have the same sort of composition. I mean, we have no idea where Madam is. We know a couple of the lower ranking females have unfortunately passed away, and that makes life a little bit more tricky for the clan. And so what the kind of structure is at the moment, we don't really kind of know. We need to figure out all of those things. But now that the den's back here, we certainly will see a lot more of these hyenas, and we will be able to kind of get a really kind of good view of them. But you can see that they're still going to feed off. They're going to finish everything here. They won't leave anything, I don't think, for Asana, especially now that there's 2 of them. But it is that time of the evening where it's time for us to head back home, and hopefully you had a wonderful time. I thoroughly enjoyed being back. I know Sebastian did as well. We both said it was a wonderful return to be back in the Sabi Sands, and can't ask for anything better than to have a bit of leopard hyena interaction and leopard going up and down a tree and beautiful light. But from Sebastian, myself, and Sydney and David in the Mara, it's been an absolute pleasure. I hope that you had a lot of fun with us, and we'll see you all tomorrow morning on the Sunrise Safari.